happening.
Right.
Okay, we're streaming. Let's just have a look quickly. I'm just going to quickly jump into my own channel. There might be an echo. Who cares? View your channel. Writing and stuff. And we are live. Yeah, there's echo now. Boom, out. And we're there. We're live.
Yes, we are. We're live. I can see your. I can.
And
see
you know what?
Channel.
I've got a link on. Actually, I posted it, the same link to WhatsApp. I might just throw it at Tokyo Brown or whoever we want to just now. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Let me just find you. I've lost you in my.
Yeah. My lighting is.
There you are. There you are. Okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
So listen, I found after all of this, and thank God, I think I saved it. Yeah, let's just try and keep these two open. I know I don't want Safari to open and close. Just hang on a second. I know Safari must close. Safari because we're in. I know you can probably see me. I am trying to do. We're in Chrome, but what I did find was, let me just minimize this a bit. I mean, I can still see you. Let's see if anybody's here. Oh, Dagon's here. Hey, hey. It's Dagon. I just want to just because this is the first time we've done this in a while. So I discovered this evening as I've gone into this pen thing. Okay, first of all, you know that there was that Beatles John Lennon Mont Blanc thing. Pens. Anyway, okay, so I went through it. That's why I was kind of hinting at something because I've been playing around in the fountain pen community. And I then discovered that, first of all, I went through Hitchcock's writing and Churchill's writing and the types of notebooks and the inks they used. I mean, this is amazing stuff as well. We talk about art tonight. Warhol and them, I mean, beyond just using a fountain pen, and this is a cheap Chinese one, but with a German nib, beyond just using a fountain pen, then they started using calligraphy pens in different colors and started sketching and drawing and all of that. So first of all, the Mont Blanc is the luxury good that I was alluding to. It's a piece of rubbish. Okay, it's like having a Louis Vuitton bag. You know, they're just a brand. Okay, and everybody thought, oh, Mont Blanc. End of the day, and I own one. God bless whoever. I think it was my late grandmother, and I keep it in here because the ink. These are hard, you know, whether you ink it or whatever. I've got my own one from my bar mitzvah days, but this is what most people used. And from the royal family to Lennon or whatever, and that is the Parker 51. A beautiful pen. So it's pretty old. Luckily, this one, it's very difficult. Takes a bottle of ink. At the moment, I'm using some Blue Pelican ink. So side pump. Some of them had those.
When I went to school in the 1960s, Parker pens were all we had. It's like there was no other brand.
The Queen used it. Lennon used it. Let me tell you. Okay, all this new shit. I was with these beautiful Japanese pens. I've now got a Lamy. They're great. Japanese nibs and German nibs or whatever. There's German, but the American pen. So this is what a young kid who got me back to look at my collection said to me, whatever. That's a Parker that I inherited. This is my Parker from my bar mitzvah days or university days. This takes a cartridge.
You've had that other one all your life then?
Yes, and then this I got around the time of my bar mitzvah, which is 1980 or so. This takes it. I can get a pump for it, but this takes a typical Parker Quink cartridge. I bought some the other day. They last quite long. I like to pump ink.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you my beautiful baby. The other one is it's a Chinese thing that I fixed. It's got a German nib. Now I'm going to show you the beauty of my youth. Now let me pull out my new little. This is what we call. Some guys have them out of leather. This is like my pen wallet. I carry this with me. And inside here, I've got just a normal kind of typical cheap pen with a little nib to use on my phone because of my eyes. Yeah, I've just got a Lamy German rollerball that I've had for a couple of years. I actually bought that pen in Myanmar at an art store. This is actually it's a United States government issued pen from the United States Forestry or whatever, one of my work things. This is just a Japanese clutch pencil. I've also got Parker clutch pencils. What I like about this one, remember they used to stick out? This one goes all the way in, so it doesn't prick you. Cheap Japanese, refillable, 0.7. The normals are 0.5s. I prefer this. This is my new Lamy German. Love it. That was my present to myself. They're beautiful. German.
That does.
They make much more. That's the Safari. Although the clear ones are the demonstration models. Some people think, don't buy them. You can buy them commercially now. Why? Because you can see the ink flow. You can see what's going through it. Cleaning it, flushing it, or whatever. I'm still using cartridges, but this baby and my other one, I'll show you afterwards. This is what I used, and I've got the calligraphy one as well. It was my baby. This was the Schaefer No Nonsense pen, 1980s, made for students. Screws closed, doesn't leak. Cartridge, but I've also got pumps for it. Love it. Just we're gonna get there. I've also got a pump for my, because I've got 3 Schaefers, but these American pens were workhorses. And what I discovered tonight, let's see if anybody's there. So yeah, this is my little bag that I've made for myself now. So it doesn't leak and stuff. I've got them the right way. I've got a big journal that I use here. You got to have. I bought myself a nice little Chinese, but you can get better paper. This is good paper, little journal. It fits in there, small one. When I'm on the move, I always carry a man bag, and I've always, and everybody, my whole life, I've got my batteries. That's my little bag of tricks. This is my big journal that I use at home, my diary. I bought this recently. Now, this is absolutely brilliant. Why? Because it's a planner, right? But it doesn't have dates. In other words, you fill in each day that you use. So, you can waste pages in a diary.
I've done it,
so in other words, yeah. So I've got 27 December. The next time I used it was on the 30th of December. Get it?
Yeah.
Don't you love this concept? You don't waste. Because you normally just fucking them up. It's absolutely brilliant. So that I got, right? And then gonna just show, and then if anybody sees this, that's the man bag that I carry every day. That everybody.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, that's the man bag I carry every single day. Am I a Beatles fan? Yes, I am. But they're not the be all and end all.
You remember the Kubrick film 2001? The in joke in there where the astronaut's traveling to the moon, and he's in a spaceship going to the moon, and there's a passenger who's fell asleep, and the stewardess goes along, and the special effect is a fountain pen that's floating in midair. So the in joke being that even in space age technology, people still use fountain pens.
Oh man, I tell you what, the more, because my eyes have been suffering, the more I've taken to pen and paper, and I've got a terrible handwriting and it's been shaky, but it's improving. God, I don't even know who's here. I mean, I can't even see because we're not. If anybody wants to just jump in,
I can't see chat. Well, I should look at my YouTube really and see if I can.
No, I've got the chat. Show the comments on stage. I think we can now. No, that's they want me to pay. I'm not paying nada.
No.
Live viewer comments. Show up on StreamYard. I got a comment to show it on. I can show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can show. So if anybody does want to jump in, I mean, we haven't done a stream for a while. And what I was going to do, I was just going to pop a link to a couple of other people. I actually copied it into my WhatsApp, which means I can just throw it onto my on the phone. This is how you get clever. God, I'm such a geek at times. And then I wanted to talk to you. This pen thing's going to be interesting because I've got something that's going to be, and it's got to do with something that you're very, very interested in. I just want to copy it's the same link that I threw out. I'm just going to.
I wish I could have found the Zelig poster for you with the different calligraphies on it.
Oh my God! Because I mean, we keep talking about that. I'm just going to pop it in on YouTube to, I mean, on Instagram to a couple of people. So pop it at there, and if anybody else wants to just jump in, just ask for a link. We don't mind. I mean, this is going to be just want to see anybody else.
Well, Nick might pop round if he gets gist of it. I sent him an email.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let people know. Just a couple people that just for us. Yeah, another person that I had a lot of respect for, just watching him from time to time, is Joey Callio.
Oh yeah, he's always got a good vibe, Joey.
No, but he also just like musically, and just one of those, just really, really amazing people. So yeah, so anyway, so what I was saying was I'm just going to go to my Firefox now. So I've got this, and I'm going to try and keep it open. So
while you're doing the technology stuff, and I can tell you that when I was first in America, when I was 25, 26 years old, I was traveling in the tube in Maryland to Washington D.C. and back,
which is where I lived. Yeah,
and I was writing a letter to somebody on the way back, and the guy next to me started to look at my handwriting, and it turns out he was working for the ambassador of somebody or other in DC, and he started asking me if I would do calligraphy for his invitation cards for parties. Nothing came of it, but he just happened to be being nosy at the letter I was writing, and he liked the calligraphy so much because I had a fountain pen back then. That's what he asked me. But since then, I have to tell you that since the age of computers, my handwriting has kind of gone downhill a bit. And the other interesting thing was I was prejudiced against keyboards for a long time because I was afraid that as a writer, if I started to use keyboards, I would lose my sense of rhythm because I felt like the motion of the calligraphy tied into my sense of fluency in the rhythm of writing, and that I'd lose that if I started to tap on it. But then I realized that actually I used to own a manual typewriter, so I did a lot of my apprenticeship in writing on a manual typewriter anyway, so that helped me shift over onto keyboards very late in the 1990s.
Well, these days you've also got these more mechanical type keyboards that are like typewriters.
Yes.
I use this Logitech, and also I'd use an ergonomic mouse just because of my hands and my age and all of that. But
when you say keyboards that are more like typewriters, you mean like where the keys stick out?
They're fat, yeah. They're more.
Okay, yeah. Right.
And then it's become the rage again.
Right. Are they any good? Are they any good, Stephen?
Absolutely. I mean, they're amazing. It's like they're making new fountain pens. I mean, this is what it's stuck. Not only vinyl. They're making old tech new. But what I'm getting with this apartment that we've got now is I'm collecting tomorrow because I've got to get rid of paper. I'm shredding paper, right? But I'm the old lady who we've got it from has given me kindly her old typewriter. It's a brother with ribbons.
Whoa!
So I am now looking forward to that. I've taken it to the pen and paper again. I'm going to be sitting at a proper desk, not in this tiny place. What I was going to do tonight is what people don't realize, and is because I can't clean them and they're of low value, but they'll be recycled or upcycled or whatever. But I'm clearing space. I got rid of like bamboo where all this mold and the problems in the apartment is. But I'm throwing out. They can't be cleaned. They would take about 5 or 6 ultrasonic cleans with some of them, just part of their collection that I inherited. But I'm probably throwing out about 1,000 classical records.
Whoa.
But they'll be used in no, but they can't. it's somebody, they're each probably worth $1.
Right.
I've got my top shelf. You know what I mean?
When you say throwing out, though, what do you actually mean?
Meaning they will go to a recycling place, or somebody will take them and they'll use them in a restaurant as coasters or make clocks out of them. But I don't have the time, whatever, to sell them or get rid of them. I've got to move quickly. We built a month. I've had too much problems here.
Yeah.
I threw away tonight some Thai, which I'd had for years, some Thai bamboo placemats. But they bred the mold. I'm not taking mold into the new place. This has been the problem here. This has been my year or 2 or 3 of floods. And so, hey, let's hear, howdy. Anybody want to come up, just please just say throw a link or whatever. Or let me actually just see, maybe I can actually just pop the link here. Come on, VE. No, that's the Gentleman's Journal about the authors. Let me just go quickly to my WhatsApp. Hang on, and I'll just find the link for this. Just hang on a second. If anybody wants it, more than welcome. I'm just going to where's the link? Copy. I think this should work. Copy this link, and then I'm just going to go straight back into the browser. We are in Chrome because Safari doesn't like the thing. So here's a link if anybody wants to just jump up and have a bit of a chat. So what I did pull, so I'm just so excited about it. So that's all over. What I did pull tonight, and this is just such a cool thing that I know you'd, besides the fact that, I realized that Lennon actually, even though there was the Mont Blanc, etc., he used a Parker 51. But what I pulled tonight, and think that at least I've got the phone in front of me, what I pulled tonight is this is in the Gentleman's Journal. I'm going to open up this and just look at it from my phone. The pens of the world's most famous authors. Okay. Can I go through this quickly?
Sure, go ahead.
This is because I'm loving this. Let's but the fountain pen community is also good. You know what I mean? Poster community, art community, writing. Because some of this is there are people that we'll get there. And then
the fountain pen community might be the one community that's drama free in the world.
No. They are actually. And also, I've been into some interior design.
Are they drama freaks?
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, there is drama. Believe me. By the way, the vinyl community is so small compared to the fountain community.
Right. Okay, that's great.
That's why I'm loving the interior design community with kitchens and and thank God everybody in America wants a quartz bath or top. Okay, where's most of the quartz made? Here in South Africa. My butcher's block. Let's get to bed, but happy to come up and chat another time. Anytime, man. I think we need to roll something a bit different, and this is just we're not dissing the vinyl community, don't get it wrong, because every community's got their drama. But I just wanted to start off with a new and amazing year, glad that Rachel's back, etc. I'm going to go through if you just see anybody in the background or whatever. Okay, so Mark Twain used a Conklin crescent filler. 1903, it goes to Huckleberry Finn. Dylan Thomas.
Just stop there. What a great writer Twain was. Twain. Yes. I've got to stop every so often. If you mention a writer that's a favorite of mine, I'm going to have to stop you and say something about that writer. Mark Twain was somewhat taken for granted because he was a humorist. And like Kurt Vonnegut said, it takes a great skill to make somebody laugh out loud when you're not there to perform it. It's just words on paper. And Twain his timing was so beautiful and his metaphors were so hilarious that's one of the reasons why he was such a great writer, because he could get his humor across, even across the Atlantic, to somebody like me, all those generations later. So what a great writer Twain was. So carry on.
Well, yeah. And my thing about fountain pens is because my mother went to a convent and was forced from being left-handed to write with her right hand because I'm left-handed, but we were forced to write with fountain pens. Most lefties write like this, and they smudge. was forced with the fountain pen, and I write like this and I don't smudge. I love my fountain pens. I've got back into it. And let me tell you, there are in this fountain pen community, there are guys that own 6, 7, 8,000 pens. It's absolutely scary.
Well, I hope the drama in the fountain pen community doesn't include wars. No. I hope it doesn't include wars between the right-handed people and the left-handed people, because that would be really stupid if they found time to argue about that.
Well, if I had to do a bit of a song around this, I'd use that Bill Withers song, and it was about the Vietnam War, which is I can't write left-handed, you know.
Right.
So let me get to the next one. Twain. Now we get to Dylan Thomas.
Oh wow, yeah.
Parker 51, baby. That's what I own. The variations of them. Very, very proud. And I've actually got a Dylan Thomas reel-to-reel tape here that there might be a real. Now let's talk about Steinbeck.
His writing is so it reads so oral that it almost feels like he composed it by talking by dictaphone, like he talked into a dictaphone, because it's so oral. I think because of his training on BBC Radio, it's so you can hear it when you read it. You can hear it in your mind.
Wow. Yeah, you know,
and one of the few writers who was very, very good at narrating out loud his own work, because Hunter Thompson was kind of rubbish at reading his own work out loud, which is why he got Johnny Depp and Warren Zevon and people like that to read for him his own works. But Dylan Thomas he would have been the best writer. The best writer who narrates his own books because of his voice out loud, were it not for Richard Burton. So Richard Burton came along and sort of topped that.
Well, I've got a record, I think, here, and I've definitely got a reel and a record of Dylan Thomas's voice himself.
Yeah, he's great.
That reel tape is sitting here now with my new tech, because I told you I found this tech. We're starting to refurb tape decks. He's fearless. You know, we are refurbing motors and stuff that even people in the US are scared to do, and we're hoping that we'll be building stuff and conjuring stuff. He's amazing. Just a fearless young man that I found who's passionate about his music. But I can't wait, because there is a real machine that's sitting there, and there are two that we're refurbing for somebody else, that to actually listen to that Dylan Thomas tape that's been sitting here for a few years. Now let's get to Steinbeck. And I've got some pencils, vintage pencils in that. I don't have enough. But he used Palomino Blackwing pencil. Gorgeous looking.
Pencil, okay.
That's why I carry a pencil as well.
Somehow, you know, Seven, somehow that kind of fits, because Steinbeck's quite an earthy writer, and a pencil is more earthy than a fountain pen. So maybe that fits in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of weird. I mean, it's such a male thing, you know, gentleman's journal. But, you know, there are women that are running fountain pen channels and that now. They're all into the new sort of Japanese, and like the Lamy that I've got. It's funky, it's new, it's different. I mean, but it's just a gem. This was just a cheap Chinese thingy that I think I got in France at some stage. But I realized it had a German kind of nib. It takes a standard cartridge. These are just because some are proprietary, like Lamy or Pelican or whatever. But I mean, it took me a while to get this thing writing, because, you know, some are scratchy. Like that Parker is not a wet pen; it's dry.
Right.
You know, I need, and also if you've got a calligraphy pen, it doesn't have a ball; it's flat. It can be very dry. Mine hadn't been used in years, but once I got these things writing, and once you get that flow on paper, and you're using different papers, oh my God!
When you mentioned the newer Japanese ones, are they, by any chance, do they create a more jagged sort of writing style? No.
Look, I've always been into these pens. I'm new to this. This is a new hobby for me. It's kind of always been there. I kept the pens, like my watches.
But have you got one of the more new Japanese fountain pens to test it out, to see whether it is?
And they speak about a difference between a Japanese nib and because I've got the Lamy is German, the Schaefer is American, and the Parkers are American. Some were made in the UK as well.
The reason I ask is because of the symbology in Japanese culture. It feels to me there's a lot of sort of jagged, zigzaggy sort of signage in Japanese culture. So if you think about when Buddhism traveled from India to Japan and it became known as Zen or Zazen, if you think about the letter Z, and it feels like Japan has got a lot of that sort of slashing motion in the symbology. So I was thinking, I wonder if the fountain pens are actually more edgy as well. So it's just a wild guess.
No. They've been making them for years. All I know is that the European type pens and the Eurocentric pens are kind of like your Japanese pens kind of tend more towards like what I prefer broad. A fine is not for me.
Right.
And that's why my Parker 51 is not going to be used a lot. It's too fine.
So are the Japanese nibs more fine then?
Yeah, no. They seem to be broader.
Okay.
They've been making them. There's also Chinese. They've also been doing it for years. There's a whole new. Some of these companies. So you've got. I think there's Pilot. Although there's a mixture because there's Pilot, there's Pelican. I've just got one bottle of ink now. I want to get another color. I want to get. I mean the inks and. It's just a beautiful, beautiful world. But I want just getting back to the pencils because we want to go. There's some writers here that are.
Yeah.
So you could buy a Palomino Blackwing pencil. You could buy 12 of them for £26. Not too shabby. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Parker 51 these days, the current version. Yeah. I've got his under Milkwood. A Parker 51. Oh my God! You see, Lola saying, "Oh, this is a comment. This one's allowed to sit at William Faulkner's desk." See,
well, he's on Mississippi, cool.
Wow. So we'll go through even the pricing because people talk about the price of records and reissues because the 51s there's reissues. Mine's a middle OG. Mine's I think it's a 50s. They were earlier. So the new Parker 51, it's not cheap. It's 79 quid for that pen. That's not a cheap pen. You know what I mean? That's a bit of money.
Yeah.
Steinbeck, the Palomino Blackwing pencil, and these things look beautiful. I've also got some vintage pencils here. Every day he put his pencil to paper. He would sharpen 24 pencils and place them by his desk. I love it.
Well, you know what that is, Steven, because Ray Bradbury used to do that as well. It's procrastination. It's like it takes a bit of time to overcome the fear of a blank page, and writers will do anything to avoid that fucking moment and so they sometimes develop rituals like that, and it just sort of winds them up to get into gear and break that fourth wall, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh my God! I thought that actually it was a French company, but it's not. And this is so boring because it's just so. It's like a luxury. Although it's not as luxury as my Blanc. Stephen King uses a Waterman Hemisphere fountain pen. I sold my Waterman pen, and I sold them on Blanc rollerball. It was what went for me. The Waterman costs £55, so the Parker's even better paid. Arthur Conan Doyle.
Oh.
Used a Parker Duofold Classic, which looks more like a wooden type, like that Chinese pen that I've got. The current version. Yeah, that's right. Sherlock Holmes himself sprang from the nib of this model. It was religiously used by Conan Doyle during 40 years or so in which he wrote the tales of the famous detective.
Well, it must have been reliable.
Do you know what a Parker Duofold Classic costs?
Go ahead.
389 quid.
Fuck. I was about to say it must be reliable because Conan Doyle wrote
like a turntable.
Conan Doyle wrote those books as installments in Strand magazine, so that means he had to meet deadlines. So whatever pen he was using had to be reliable if he's going to meet those deadlines.
Oh my God, you're gonna love this one. Ian Fleming, gold capped bureau crystal ballpoint, which is basically the same as a big James Bond author, same as a big crystal ballpoint. £1.50.
£1.50. Fucking hell, because he was a bit posh. I would have expected the grand scale for somebody like that.
No, I've actually got an original Bic here from the 80s that's still writing. I also own a Fisher Space Pen, which is used on the moon and it writes underwater and stuff. Next one, Ernest Hemingway, a selection of Monte Grappa fountain pens. These are beautifully, obviously European.
I would have thought they'd be rough and ready for Hemingway.
He serves as the ambulance driver on the Italian front. That's why he landed up. Obviously, it's an Italian pen. Okay, a Monte Grappa is £840.
Ooh, that's steep, man. That's steep.
What a world, eh?
I would have thought pencil for Hemingway, because that brusque style of his.
No, this is because I want one of these, and I think they are German. Must be okay.
I mean, he wasn't precious, was he, Hemingway?
Not sure. Hey,
you'd be hard pushed to find a semicolon in Ernest Hemingway's prose.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Einstein, and you can get some cheaper ones now. They're not that expensive. And I've got the ink. It's German, but he used a Pelikan. He used a Pelikan 1000N, gorgeous green. Must be sort of mother of pearl. I actually gave my late mum's mother of pearl pen to a friend of mine. It never worked, and he retipped it. He's into calligraphy, so he's got it. I wouldn't have used it. That thing just, he had to put a new rubber inside. There was yeah. The Pelikan was used. No, the classic M200. That's only £55. I'm saying compared to these others. I'm just giving you, still not cheap.
Yeah, no.
All right, I'm just going to pour myself something to drink here with some milk and whatever. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can.
So I'm going to get into Churchill because I watched something on Churchill, and that was absolutely amazing. And also about what was happening in those last bits of the war. And there's a particular kind of paper that people use, whether you use a lined paper or you use square paper or you use dots, that not many people kind of relate to, let alone and I actually want to at some stage talk to Tokyo Brian, obviously because he's there, because we can get it here. I'm just after certain types of Japanese paper. Everybody thinks that the Moleskine is the journal. I've got some cheaper Chinese journals that are as good, if not better, and the ink bleeds better, but not too much into the paper, etc. So Churchill was interesting because I watched a video on, apparently, often they say the pen is mightier than the sword, and I think there is something in that. And apparently, I watched this video on him, and it was like he was sitting there, in those last parts of the war or whatever, but it was like wild. He couldn't write across lines or squares, and that's why the dotted paper exists. And the current baby journal that I got here, and I thought, oh my God, I made a mistake, because I think I'm the same in that, because my writing's not worse, but I'm trying to improve it, and I'm also getting back to my cursive. But this is like a dotted paper. I don't know if you can see that.
No, it's not showing through, Stephen. All I see is a blank page.
Anyway, there's little dots.
Okay.
Maybe I'll close to where the camera is. I've got it on 720p. I mean.
Yeah, it's not showing, Stephen.
Yeah. Anyway, there's dots. It's not lines or squares.
Okay.
It's so it is a line and is a square, but it's just little dots. And he wrote like that because it was like up and down, and the structure. And I've realized that now the way I write, because often it's not straight or does like do things at angles or whatever, and being left-handed, that dotted thing. So they go into the whole thing about Churchill and the dots, and how he it was just that. Yeah, it was just he took his pen as quite a serious instrument. And to think every day, whether you'd sit down at a desk, and in those days you didn't have a little cartridge like, I grew up of a lab, even latter era with cartridge in that, but you had a vacuum pump or a side pump or whatever. You had a bottle, and oh my god, even my Pelican bottle of ink.
Well, it was the next step. It was the next step up from the quill, wasn't it? At that time.
Yeah, well, they still have dipping pens as well.
Yeah,
and certain inks for dipping. You have the Diamine inks, but he also used Swan from maybe Todd and Bird pen makers in 1905 to use Zanato. Allegedly, the politician preferred to fill his Zanato pens with red ink. Also, I've got greens at the moment. I've got vintage, and it's from 1980. I've got the box here, and it's like literally like nowadays that same 6 cartridges of Schaefer, you can't even find it. And it's 1980s, and it was sealed, and I opened it up, and there's still bits of ink. I've got some brown ink. Oh my god, brown or blue black. And at the moment I'm loving blue.
But if you write with red ink, that's like saying urgent.
No. I've got some red and green. No, I want red. I want a bottle of red.
Well, green is more restful, isn't it?
Oh yeah. But red sometimes, if you've got certain ideas or something, you want to underline something, or
right,
and you sit there.
Right.
Yeah, so this is like actually you'll dig this if I can find it. This is my late grandmother's. This is a pen case, Bakelite. Look at that. Stood on a desk, and it says here. Oh, the light. Trademark British made. This is like Bakelite. It's like shellac. I don't want to drop that, baby.
It also ties into signatures. Richard Nixon's, the president, Richard Nixon's signature. You can see it online, examples of it. When he got to the X in Nixon, it was a really angry cross stroke that stood out from the rest of the signature. Like, you could read a lot into that. Like, when he got to Nixon, it was like this angry jagged X on it.
I think my signature's been angry, and it's never the same. I battle to replicate it. That's what I've been doing lately. So I've got this old journal here, and as I get a new ink or something, I go into it, and then I scribble rubbish. Like I'm sitting in a bar. That's what with a mate, and somebody will like wax lyrical, something, a word or something, and these days I'm keeping a couple of pens with me. It's part of me, When I sit down in a pub, go to my local with my mates, and I sit down, and then I just start talking to somebody. It's like I pull out a Zippo lighter, and then somebody else will pull out mine and say, "Oh, I can't get this right. How do I do this and this?" I said, "Well, don't do tricks with it." I said, "Fill it like this." I said, "Get some organic cotton wool at this pharmacy. Get this wick. Do it like that, and make sure it breathes. And don't open it up immediately." So, in other words, you got your Zippo lighter. Well, this is actually a Chinese again. Because the brass is better. But this thing, I know because of the wick, everything is perfect. That if it's breathing properly, I should open this now. Even though I've got a big old Indian fan blowing here. But it should light immediately.
By sheer coincidence, Stephen, you've just picked on the 2 gadgets that 1960s spy movies always used in terms of multiple uses. So in Our Man Flint, James Coburn had a cigarette lighter with 52 different uses that you could, like, it had a fucking laser beam. And in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., everything was worked off that fucking fountain pen that they had. Every kind of signal and talking into a device was from the fountain pen. So you just happened to pick on the 2 gadgets that 60 spy movies focused right in on.
This is brilliant. So anyway, the Churchill thing, we're gonna have to pick up on this and choose a couple of authors and topics. So we've got that. His last one was the Onato. Yeah, that's £195. Further reading. So that become a journalist's journal. These are the 10 most stylish men in literature ranked. Okay, so that's all there's the 10 most stylish men in literature. So let's just have a look at that. Let's just have a look. Number 10, Jack Carter from Jack's Return to Home. I haven't read that.
No, I don't know that.
Oh my God, but in these pictures, Jack's. I'm going to have to send this link to you in an email. Yeah, the hard-hitting, heavy-drinking protagonist of Ted Lewis's 1970 fantasy played by Michael Caine in the 1971 film adaptation. Merciless London mob enforcer on a mission of vengeance. And I love Michael Caine.
Yeah, I'll get Carter.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, was that Get Carter?
Yeah, I think it's 1971. I think so. Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah, Carter. Yeah, it's Get Carter. Absolutely.
Okay, right.
Oh my God. Number 9, Arsène Lupin, from The Arrest of Arsène Lupin and Others. That must be French. French author Maurice Leblanc. Inspiration of Netflix's Lupin. Blah, blah, blah. What does he wear? What is he? Then we've got number 8, Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye. Lovely. Salinger. They've got a picture of the original Singlet book. Another version. My version, I don't have mine anymore. Number 7 is Philip Marlowe from The Big Sleep and Others.
Oh.
Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep.
Right, yeah. Really good writer, actually. I'd say...
Brilliant. In these pictures, blurry on the phone, I suppose.
Yeah, it is blurry.
The old stylish, with a hat and...
Yeah.
It's like I like my hats and the belt and the pleated trousers and the tie.
Yeah, I like Raymond Chandler's style. This is sacrilegious to some people. I think I like Raymond Chandler's style better than Dashiell Hammett's, but it's very interesting for anybody who's interested in writing, or anybody who's still looking for their own style, to compare those two authors. They're both fine writers, but just to find out what their gifts are. So with Dashiell Hammett, he was more like Hemingway, and in fact he was before Hemingway, and I think he was better than Hemingway in his terse, straightforward, direct sentences, where with Raymond Chandler he was more poetic. It was like he was a frustrated poet, and he redirected his talents into writing detective fiction, but really he wanted to be a poet. But that gave his prose something beautiful, I think, that Dashiell Hammett didn't have. But Dashiell Hammett was more hard-boiled, so his dialogue and his approach, plus the fact that he really was a private detective in real life for a while, gives Dashiell Hammett more realism. But I still prefer Raymond Chandler for that extra flourish of his descriptiveness.
When you're sitting out there daily, doing what you do, are you journaling? Are you writing? Are you...
The sad fact is, Stephen, the older I get, the less diligent I am to all these unfinished projects that are on the computer. And what I seem to be doing is, in order to stay in touch with the muse at all, is writing fucking YouTube comments just to keep in the flow. Because I think the reason I do it is because there's no pressure. Nobody's expecting me to leave a comment. There's no deadline. So that takes all the pressure off, and I feel free to write whatever occurs to me. Whereas if you're targeting something to a particular piece of research or a particular project or a particular publication, there's more pressure. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm avoiding that, I think.
Well, I've got a brilliant idea, and it might be a bit of it's a challenge to kind of keep our minds alive. In this,
I like that phrase. I like that phrase a lot, Stephen. Keep our minds alive.
Because as William Burroughs said, we're all gonna die. And who cares about the politics at the moment? I've got some friends that are Trumpy, some that are left. I don't give a shit anymore. And anybody can talk. I let them talk, and I listen. And I was with one of my best friends, and we totally disagree on politics. And he said somebody was at it because he sent a comment about Trump, whatever. People have got to learn to tolerate others. That's the only way forward. And you know what? That's what I love about Waxed and Maz coming out there on Rachel's show and stirring a little bit of whatever, I don't want any gossip here now, but I wonder what happened to Loki.
You know the phrase. You know the phrase, the art of conversation. You've heard that phrase, the art of conversation, right?
Yep.
Within the art of conversation, there's another art, which is redirection. So if somebody starts to talk politics, you've got a few options. You can start disagreeing with them like that, or you can change the subject abruptly as if you haven't changed the subject. So somebody might mention a political leader, and you might say, speaking of Trump, do you know that James Coburn played? And then you're talking about movies, and it's a complete deliberate redirection away from. So that's a nested talent within the art of funniest divert the track.
The funniest tonight was that they mentioned it was at Reagan's. Someone died, and then Rachel was like, "I know, but that okay, gone left," because they just she throws you, and this is what I love about it. And I've lightened up. I've lightened up. I've lightened up. So my challenge is and this is not a condescending or but in terms of my experiences with YouTube, and I've been up and down. I've been on some shows. I've been on Brian's show, Borden's show. A bit of this, bit of that. Rachel's until there was that whole little incident or whatever. But we're still all friends. But at the end of the day, I think that you are an incredibly prolific YouTube commenter, and that is an art in itself. That's me. Because do you remember the first time I ever went onto a YouTube show? You posted a comment. It was on Rachel's show, and I thought, oh my God, and I showed it to somebody because I wasn't thinking. I was in a post-divorce nervous state, etc. And person who looked at it and analyzed it, he said, no, that person likes you. You're there.
I wonder what the comment was. I can't remember what the comment was.
It was that on Rachel's first show. I mean, who knows where it is, and I never saved it or recorded it.
Oh, I think I did, Steven, but the problem is it doesn't record the chat. I think I do it.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you do make certain comments, and some of the shows you can go back to. But what I say to you, and this is the idea of journaling, is so keep it the YouTube stuff, but just grab that pen and paper, go and grab a pencil, or whatever but just take it to your hand again. Sit there, with the squirrels or whatever, and sit there and just maybe say the task of the day is to write down. Whether you're using a cursive or whether it's a Churchill type crazy writing or whatever, and maybe you get 3 pencils in 3 different colors, but to take the three comments that you posted on that day and just write them by hand, rewrite them,
right,
and journal it. There'd be, there could be a ref to the show, and then the comment, and to keep it very beat. Because there is so much that you've contributed.
I think I can show you an example of my fountain pen handwriting on parchment script from when I was like 14 years old. Like I've still got that. I would
kill to get some good parchment. I mean, I was in Nepal and Myanmar. You want to see the papers there.
If you bear with me, Steven, for about say 3 minutes, if I disappear for 3 minutes, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, give me 3 minutes.
I'm good. If anybody else is here, I mean, I'm good. Yeah, it's actually quite incredible to just be able to move these things in a direction that's just a little bit different. Where is that? Also, just writing text. They were looking at records and art, and I pulled out a classical record with a beautiful cover. And this is the Budapest String Quartet. Originally, it was a American CBS. Schumann piano quartet and the Budapest String Quartet were circling at piano. Originally CBS, which obviously in American press, probably back then it was either a 2i or whatever. This is the UK press. It's blue. I saved this record because we printed at Ernest J. Day, London. I mean, it's like Garrett Lofthouse or whatever. British press. And I looked to see who did the art because we were talking about that. And just look at that. And I then looked at, it was done cover design by Verity Graphic Arts. They've actually got a Discogs page. This record's not there, but there was a Paul Simon record done by Verity Graphic Arts. So, it's kind of people just the connects, the artwork. What else was that? Beautiful records and artwork. Save that because we do love. This is, I think, Portuguese Fado. Yeah, again, not the British. Yeah, because it's got the double sleeve, but that's Amalia Rodriguez, I think. Yeah, 33rd. Yeah, Photo Horacio Narvaez. Okay, so there's a bit of laminate. Yeah, this is a 10-inch that's going to be cleaned. And this is on Columbia. As you can see, minty, beautiful. So who cares about the cover? The art's still there. Your apartment's not going to have the moisture. So we've got this is a funny one. It's actually what the wax just talking earlier. Some Jewish records there. Connie Francis passed. This is Connie Francis singing favorite Jewish songs. I must be backwards, eh? Flip my screen. I've actually just been showing some records.
Okay, here we are.
There's another. I was absolutely showing some records. I've been showing audience alone. I'm streaming alone, but it's fine.
Okay.
How does that look? Is that reversed or?
That's good. That's fine. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah, the Moog Strikes Back. Yeah, Sonart Productions. Yeah, this is printed in England. Again, RCA Records, Curzon Street, London. Beautiful press.
Who did it though? Who did it, Stephen? Who's on the keyboard?
Oh yeah.
Because there were a few of those around in the 70s.
No, but this is Moog, and that's why, because and we've got the Sonart Productions. Say nothing. All works arranged or transcribed and performed on the Moog synthesizer by Hans Wurman. Coordinating producer John Pfeiffer, recording engineer Roger Arnfinson, and there's that's like electronic coming into.
I see.
It is that's such a cool photo. I mean,
it is, yeah.
When I said I'm getting rid of some classical, these are cheap.
Photograph.
Yeah, these are still cheap, but these are good ones. But I've got some that just are like absolute, they've been moldy, they've been sitting in plastic for years, and they're not my top shelf, and then I've got to decide to do something, like I've got this here. It's still deciding, just talking about records. And again, this is a German press, but it's a beautiful, German pressing, but it's a Julian Bream on guitar. So Baroque guitar, that's the kind of stuff I like. I don't like it, I must be honest, and I just still can't get. So what I did get rid of is very little. I had boxes, German opera is not my thing. Bit of Italian opera, more the black artists, and then obviously more like she was a Sephardic woman. That kind of opera I kept, and then a lot of the sort of busy, heavy classical stuff was a no-go. But then, this is just a cheapie. This is a cheapie. But again, Dusty Springfield. Of course, you're going to keep any Dusty Springfield record.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I've got loads. And this is a local South African press on Success. It was obviously a promo. Phillips, South African pressing, but it's good, and yeah.
Well, so I found the stuff with my handwriting on it, and all within a box of other stuff. I've got to be really careful here because it'd be easy to dox myself. Although
don't dox yourself, eh?
No, although that's becoming less relevant. The older I get, unless I make a decision really this year to go back to lecturing, it's going to be kind of irrelevant if I dox myself or not. I'm just holding out in case I go back, because what happens, Stephen, is when you take early retirement, it doesn't feel like you're retired because it's a choice you've made. It's a voluntary thing. It's not been imposed. But then something weirdly psychological happens when you get to the age of state retirement age. Suddenly it feels imposed and kind of like boxed in. And I don't like that. I liked it before when it was my choice. But now, as I've got to that age, I'm not happy about it entirely. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm considering going back, I think. I haven't really worked it out in my own head yet. But the older I get and the more forgetful I become, the less of a good lecturer I'll be anyway. So the decision might be taken for me by my own lapses. So I feel like I feel like this year will be the year where I decide. So by this time next year, it might not matter if I'm doxed or not, because if I'm not going to go back to lecturing, as long as I don't disclose my actual address, I can't really be hassled. But it's just, I just want to leave the pathway open if I can to going back to lecture for 1 or 2 years, because I don't like the idea of enforced retirement. I liked it when it was my choice, but now it's kind of feeling a little bit, because of my age, like it's enforced. So for that reason, I'm being a bit careful. But one of the things I wanted to read out to you, because it's funny, because the standing joke amongst in the VC and somewhat in the law tube community is that
I've been watching a lot of legal stuff as well, but we'll get to that. That's what I'm just saying. I think this could be your year of YouTube as well.
Well, I've no intention of making any videos at all. I've just no interest in it.
No,
but the standing joke, which I like a lot, I can laugh along with it. The standing joke is that I leave novels as comments. The long. So the stereotype is that I always leave long comments. Now, it's not true, but if I point out that it's not true, I'm kind of being a spoilsport because the joke is good. So I can laugh along when anybody says the joke. So here's something for you. When I was trying to make it as a short story writer in the 1970s, I kept all my rejection slips. And usually they're just printed, recycled rejection slips. If an editor takes an interest in you, they'll handwrite something on the rejection slip, and that's when you know you're getting somewhere. So here's a rejection slip from a long defunct magazine called The City Lit. So this is from June 1978. Dear Mr. So-and-so, thank you for sending your story to Matrix. Although it is interesting and very witty, we cannot accept so long a piece. So even then, in my teens, I was writing on and on and on without any editing going on.
My God!
My critics in the VC will get a field day out of reading that.
Well, you still got that beat way of stuff, because your sentences are short and sweet, and they can be quite cryptic, or they can just like you'll hit somebody so fast. And you're not all there, or you engage in other stuff and you're not catching, because it's how our brains work. I'll sometimes say something and somebody's like, what? What are you saying? Or, and these days I always bring up, I always find something like a song from a lyric from a song. I've always, as a kid, I could never remember lyrics. I'm reading now. And it's weird that the brain can actually, and especially when you've been sort of diagnosed ADHD in 1979. You know, we were the first on the so-called spectrum. Now, all the kids want to be on the spectrum because they're just damn lazy. You know, they all want to take Ritalin and Xanax and whatever else. We joke about it,
but you can learn quite a bit from even if you're a prose writer, you can learn about writing from lyrics somewhat, with things like space and brevity and leaps from one thing to another, and also how to be conversational in the way that Paul Simon is conversational in his singing and his lyricism. So you can learn quite a bit, even if you don't want to be a songwriter, but you're just a prose writer. You can learn from lyrics sometimes.
Well, it's quite amazing because actually it reminds me of another great album of his. There goes Rhyme and Simon.
Yes, exactly.
Waxing lyrical, you know.
I don't know.
See, it's good, but I mean, it looks good. It looks good.
That's from about 1982. Is it the right way around?
What pen were you using? Hello, that's what I want to know.
No, that's
now my mind is like, oh my God, what was it? A Schaefer? Was it a Parker? Was it just, you know? I mean, the Schaefer that I've got, those were student pens.
I can't remember what fountain pen it was, but I will still have it. It'll be in this house somewhere.
You know what? If it's got like a pump or whatever, you should just like wash it out, check if the nib's still okay. Wash it out. Go buy a bottle of ink. I promise you, it is such a rewarding. Spend a day doing that. You know, it's actually that's what I did. It's just like while I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to move. I've got this going on. I've got that. And one day I used pens once or twice when my daughter was still around. You know, we'd spoken about it. And she's left-handed like me. And also, I actually asked Rachel in the chat today. I said because a friend of mine is actually trying to track down some of his genealogy, which comes out of just out of Europe. Also, not doxing anybody, but he thinks that there is some Jewish blood there that he's not quite aware of.
Well, that's like me. That's like me with my grandfather.
Yeah. And he asked me certain things, and I know, after Rachel did that whole thing with Maz, that Rachel will get to the bottom of it because she is absolutely a master of getting around genealogy. And it's quite weird. You're watching her new show now, and maybe I'll just point it, because we're speaking brilliant stuff compared to the old channel. And now there's only 640 subscribers, but boy, the quality right now, the quality of some of the conversation, how it's just evolved, and how some of us are not on screen anymore. We're in different places, but the
reason I know this is from the 1980s is because this is an essay about H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, but you can see when I've made there's a quotation at the bottom of the page, and you can see that I've indented it off the paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to do that, or that you had to do that in my teens. So I know it's not from the 1970s. So it means it's from the early 1980s. And the other thing is that quote is far too long. Even without reading the quote, that's far too long for a quotation. So that's from my early period where I was trying to write literary criticism by trial and error.
And I think about it. I mean, I've got my final university thesis here typed out, which I wrote by hand, and I had a late aunt of mine typed it out for me on a typewriter, and it's bound. And then I've got my sort of not a thesis, but like a major paper, which is one of my third year things, which I did with somebody else, and we basically looked at Nelson Mandela and the armed struggle, and we looked at international law and whether they had the right to pick up guns or not, and we used the speeches of an Afrikaner who was a lawyer, and looked at international law. It was a whole legal. This is all my law studies, and I've got that in an envelope here, and I don't have but I've got the original copy of that written out by hand at university. Because when I was there, you didn't get to touch a computer unless you studied computer science in South Africa. It was a bit different. And it's even in the 80s, I taught myself computer. But it's written up by hand, but that's not in fountain pen, and that's just on normal shitty paper, rushing through, and obviously made photocopies and we wrote it together and whatever. But I think that the pen, and kind of as you put it down on the paper and as it bleeds in, it brings in it kind of instills a creative. It's like a rush. It's like going through your veins of creativity.
Interesting. Yeah. Yes, that's what I was wondering. That's what I was wondering about when I eventually moved into a computer. Is the fear that I would lose my fluency because of what you get with handwriting, and this is the thing, Stephen. I taught computing from 1993 for a couple of years onwards, and I didn't have a computer while I was teaching it, and in fact I was still working on having a teaching certificate. It's just that I caught the wave early of people finally buying home PCs, so there was a massive demand in Britain for teachers to implement courses for computer studies. So because I'd showed an aptitude in writing programming, they asked me to teach classes, and that's how I ended up. That my first teaching job ever was teaching computing, and but even at that stage, I didn't have a computer of my own and wasn't interested in getting one, and I didn't get one of my own until I think it was about 2002 when I got my first computer. So I held out for that long. So every time I needed a computer, I would just use the universities. But elsewhere, you could find me in a cafe bar writing in the old-fashioned way, writing essays that way in cafe bars. And now all I do is compose everything on the laptop. But I don't know if I've lost anything by doing that. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I found that this is and to change behavior at an older age, and I was supposedly my development world when I worked in that world was the behavior change communication specialist. But I can call myself a walking hypocrite because it's hard to change your behavior. But slowly I'm trying to bits and pieces, and this has been a very therapeutic thing.
Right.
Say to myself, okay, well, and it all started off with the apartment, and I had to start drawing pictures of how we were scaling down a bathroom. It's an old building. It's like 50, 60 years old.
Right.
It's good quality. And in Cape Town, we've got a lot of humidity. And this place, I mean, it's like paper thin walls and humidity. And the geyser, the boiler is in the bedroom. And there's bamboo curtains. I threw out all my own bamboo today. I'm keeping it because it breeds mold. But this place is like short ceilings. The new place is double. The walls are like this much thicker.
Oh, wow.
This is like this. This is like this. It's got that old sort of, I don't know, there was like a scratchy type of paint with like little speckles on it. I mean, the lady who is moving out, I mean, she's 91. She's moving into an aged home. Her two sisters are there. And she still walks to the shops and stuff, but it's finally time for her. But she's been there for 40 years. It's not been, there are wooden parquet floors, and South African wood is good. Like this. We are sanding it. We're getting it back to you. But we're not going. So, the old galley kitchen. And you know what we love? Entrance hall comes in, it's long. Okay. Lounge is separate. Here, the kitchen is here. Humidity will affect the records. The bathroom is separate.
So has the old lady moved out already now then?
No, I'm actually seeing going there later today. There's all handovers and everything. And then I've got a month. We're building and I'm moving. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's given me her typewriter.
Oh wow! You have to stay in touch with her. Right.
Yeah.
Typewriter.
God, mate and I, we're gonna regularly maybe take her out for a meal. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just go and visit her. Her two sisters are younger than her, and they're in an aged home already. She's 91. Okay, and it's amazing.
That feels like a massive step to me, and maybe your final rite of passage where you get to the stage, if you live long enough and you move out of your own home and you move into an old people's home, that might be the last until dying. That might be the last rite of passage.
She'd made that decision,
right?
I think her body, but you know, I mean, she's incredible. When I got this place through a friend, that was a private purchase, but it was a case of, he did not, when I discovered, once we started doing all the paperwork, he thought, and I thought, that she was 10 years younger. We thought she's 81, but she's actually 91.
Wow.
Once we got the paperwork and everything started going through.
Right.
And it's incredible. So yeah, we calculate, so, but the thing is, the kitchen is separate. You've got that entrance hall. So what you do with a galley kitchen is, because there's too much cupboards and space, and there's an old stove and stuff. So we're clearing it. The bathroom, it's too big. We're putting in a sort of smaller freestanding bath with like a shower type thing, making more space. Cabinets, modern, and ensuring, because there is moisture and stuff, although not like here, but they've got the old air brick. There's a brick with air that goes into the outside. Yeah. We call it an air brick. It's got holes.
Right. Okay.
This new place, this doesn't have that. So that's why all this, and I've had so much rain and stuff coming in.
But I do hope when you move, Stephen, that you don't make those record shelves behind you orderly, because I said to Stunty the other week that the two people in the whole VC who have the best record shelving is Stunty and Stephen, because they're so ramshackle that it has character. And if you make them too orderly, they're just like anybody else's shelves, whereas you could tell that those are Steven's shelves and nobody else's. You can tell that those are Stunty's shelves and nobody else's. So when you move, Stephen, I hope you retain the ramshackle character of the shelving.
No, it's going to be ramshackle, but it's going to be ramshackle in my own way, but it's going to be orderly in that it's not going to be like this pine shelving here. Some of these were just like, they're actually not the best, and they've also damaged records. I'm going to have less. I've got other shelving that's coming in. Stuff's going to get painted. I've got some other beautiful shelving on the side. But this, and then I've got some stuff that's going to go on the floor. But I'm going to take all moisture off, but it's still going to be eclectic, okay?
Right.
But it's not going. It's not going to be. This is damaged records, right? And that's a sad thing, because I had kids and other people move in with me, and I got the shelving. This is not perfect. I've got other shelving on the side where I had other stuff, and there's another thing that I'm going to put on the floor, and we're just going to stand it like a nice color, and also to keep the moisture out. This pine is not treated. It's not good.
Right.
Some of us got a green inside.
Okay.
That's so it's not going to be the same, but it's going to be, believe me, like the way we've done this, because you're going to see now. You're going to see the tube amps. You're going to see these. Maybe I can turn the. Oh my God! I mean, this place is an absolute mess, because I'm living right now where everything's out of the bedroom because of all of that moisture. But let's just see if we can get to the tube amps. No, that's what I love about the stand. But you've got these tube monoblocks with these tubes popping. They're like steampunk. They are absolutely gorgeous. That Garrard turntable sitting there, on that wooden stand. Nobody ever saw the sound system. I mean, it smokes anyone, in terms of the chain of stuff, from the rotary mixer through to, the Garrard which John Peel used in the BBC with the two tone arms, through to the tube amps, through to the vintage Yamaha, and then the TV stand and other stuff. It's just going to be this amazing space, and this near field little listening place, because we like near field. And people will be able to see the Mongolian tables, the beautiful wooden floors, but not the ramshackle, because I've enjoyed this place in the beginning, but it just wasn't right, and it's been a battle, and
How many more weeks? How many more weeks are you living in this place you're living in now?
Look, I've got to be out on the 31st. So yeah, I've got now from today, and with contractors and payments and stuff. Right. I've got so it's 20. Yeah, but my official, because I've got two things. I'm getting certain stuff out of here so I can pack records, because I don't even have a garage or anything yet to pack. Last places I did. This place, the new place, I will not be smoking inside there. It's a balcony. I never smoked. Yeah, I couldn't because there's no balcony. Rain. The
wind. You've got a balcony where you're going.
Oh, yeah, and it's covered. It's beautiful.
Whoa, that's a good place for writing.
And there's one. There's one outside the front door side, and there's one outside the back door side.
2 balconies.
Well, the one's a shared one. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. The parquet floors, long passage coming in. Then you walk left. There's like an open sort of cupboard, and then you've got, as you walk left into the passage on the right, you've got the bathroom, and then you walk straight into the kitchen.
Balcony.
Bathroom's got a door.
That's one of my. And then I've got several writing fantasies about locations, but one of them is a home that had a balcony, because I've never had a balcony. So because I just in my head I just think, God, I could write more. I could write more if I had a balcony. I probably couldn't, but that's my fantasy, that if I had a balcony, that would solve all my writing problems.
Who is Satan Rose official?
He pops in Rachel's ghost a lot, and he pops in Paul Psycho.
I don't know. I mean, has he got anything to do with Jason or?
I've no idea. I just take things as I find them.
No, a man is only as strong as his shelving. Yeah, exactly. Well, we just sitting here rolling our little chats.
But you see, I like the fact that your shelving, and even more so Stunties, you can see the bend in the middle of the shelving because the weight is pressing down on the shelf. But that gives it character. It's probably not the best for the records, but it gives it character.
This stuff, there's too much. But this stuff is wood, and it's still good. This is better. This particular shelf is even better than a Kallax. And then I've got a couple of other cubes that are even old, that are way better. And a couple of newer ones that I'm going to paint up, and then there's another beautiful shop, even stronger than this brown one. But it's those yellow ones that have got the weird corners. The thing is, they were stuffed too full because of that classical collection I inherited. So there's about 1,000 classical records. I mean, it's a pity because somebody like Michael Poetry on Plastic, if he was around, I just said I'd come grab him, and he'd clean up some of them. It's stuff that he would want. Not that they're the most valuable. I've obviously kept that top shelf stuff for myself.
He's the only musicologist I know in the vinyl community. There's probably more, so I don't mean to offend anybody else. It's just that Michael Poetry on Plastic is the only one I know who is a musicologist, because whenever I have to write about music, usually film soundtracks, I don't have the language. I don't have the technical language because I'm not a musicologist. I don't even really know what pitch means, to be honest. I don't know what a scale is. So I don't know anything. So with somebody like Michael Poetry on Plastic, he could describe technically something I'm not capable of describing, which is half the battle. And so when you don't have that technical language, what you have to do is resort to metaphor and description, which is no bad thing, because then that can build a bridge to other readers who are also not musicologists. But ideally, I wish I had Michael Poetry on Plastic's musicological background as well, so that I could bridge the two, so that I wasn't relying entirely on description all the time, which is what I have to do because I'm musically illiterate, really.
Well, there's some books here, and these I'm keeping, but I mean, I know Michael would love them. And this is an incredible one. I picked this up, and these are picked up in thrift stores, or they were part of the collection that I inherited, a classical collection. But this is a book, I mean, obviously, but it's called Legends in Music by John Horton.
Okay.
I mean, but I'll go through it. So somebody's written here in cursive, obviously in a fountain pen, on just on one page. There's nothing else written, just here, it's scribbled there, and it says Dvorak, 1843 to 1904. Then it goes Ahaga Euros. That's all. It's a hardback. It's definitely got mold and stuff. It's old. John Horton, illustrated by W.A. Payne, ARCA. Thomas Nelson and Sons, London, Edinburgh, Toronto, New York. This is a... just let me get my glasses closer. Just don't have the light. Yeah, first published in 1948. So this was repressed in 1949. So this is a second press. Fair enough. And then it goes through 14 works of history, January 1948, 14 works describing the origin, a story, or picture. And then first one, I mean, I'm not going to go through it, but it goes, A Herd of Switzerland, and speaks about the German poet Schiller. Beautiful diagrams, obviously sketched in pencil or pen.
Or is that wood block engraving? Is that maybe?
Possibly, but it's got drums and there's some string instruments. Looks like some drums. Then there's some musical notes and other stuff on the other page. And I mean, I know it's a bit blurry because the lighting and...
Oh, that's it. You got it there. That's a bit sharper there, just for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just and so there's the Swiss story. You know, this kind of picture. You know, this. So let's see if we can get as sharp as we did. Tell me when.
Keep moving it. That might be as good as you're going to get it. I can see what looks like tall tree trunks above a like Tudor structure building, gable end.
Yeah, it's got that, and then it's got an old. Then the third chapter is an old soldier from Hungary, and it speaks about Hari Janos, the Hungarian name, and Adante, and there's a picture of some instruments and some musical notes, and then it goes a great drama from Norway, and yeah, that speaks about Peer Gynt. I don't know how you pronounce it. That goes into that classical allegros and stuff. It's weird. Wonder Tales from Arabia, and it talks about this shit. I can never pronounce this word. The Scheherazade. The great. Yeah, Herazade. Yeah, all of that. Rimsky-Korsakov, that kind, and I've got some of those recordings. Then it's got the River of Bohemia, the sixth. That's the land of the Czechs, and I'm obviously, because I've got people that I'm working with in Prague on this film, and we've actually got a big Zoom call tomorrow about our Beach Boys related project. It speaks about Prague, Czech composer, Smetana, Czech composers, that goes into that. Then the Ballad of Russia. And it goes to Razin. I mean, I've got some original Russian pressings that are Persian princesses and Russian. Let's see who else it references in this chapter. That's very short. Glamourov, Shenka, Rasin, this chapter, Russian music. Then it goes into the legendary picture from Finland. So there's some, there's a chapter on Finnish stuff. Fairy tales from France, and it talks about Charles Perrault, French composer, Maurice Ravel. So it talks about Ravel in this one, right? And might go into some other French. Then there's the wood near Athens. So then there's the Greek thing, Midsummer Night's Dream, Theresus, Duke of Athens, Mendelssohn being influenced by that, Midsummer Night's Dream, this. Then the Knight's Tale of Thuringia. Where is Thuringia?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it before.
Lived in France. Troubadour, Walter von Vogel, von Erbach, Tannhauser. I mean, I haven't read. Oh, it goes into Wagner. You know, that's a person I still have difficulty with.
So getting back to your fountain pen renewed interest for a moment, just for a moment. So I can ask. I'm just going
to finish this. The book ends, but it's a couple. And Michael would love this book, but you know. Maybe you'll get a digital copy, maybe you can find it, you know, but these are the kind of books that are just gems. Because he would totally get this book in his head. I've still got to read it, and I will read it. So back to the fountain pens.
Yeah, so you've got a renewed interest in fountain pens. So I'm wondering whether that will lead to a renewed interest in writing, which is a bit different. It's not just calligraphy; it's actually writing prose, or anything actually, poetry even. But whether this renewed interest in fountain pens and calligraphy will lead into a renewed interest in putting words together in prose, in writing.
What I often do is I come up with a crazy, I often take it from music, now from other stuff or politics or a show that I've seen or something, and somebody will come up with a short, sharp, sweet quote that relates to a lot more than they actually realize it does. And I often write it down. And then I've started coming up with some of my own, and friends come up with it. We'll be sitting at a dinner, or we'll be sitting watching rugby or whatever. What's going on in the Islamist and Christian and other world at the moment. It's very divided, but there are a friend of mine who's a lot more right than I am, but he said the other day, because he's in a building that is become increasingly more conservative run. It's an Islam run building, but there's a lot of hypocrisy around it because there are sex workers and other people in that building, and he's moving out. But he just turned around the other day, and I could see that it's one of these newer buildings, and it's not a nice place. Small flat, these huge kind of new things. And he said the way things are going, he said it feels like that there's a jihad on his lawn.
What a great phrase that is.
Well, do you think I did? Excuse me. Do you think I didn't fucking write it down? Do you think I didn't fucking write it down?
That's a great phrase. Wonderful. What I was thinking. What I was thinking, Stephen.
Look at the Satan Rice comment. Sorry, let's laugh at this. I mean, oh my god, like you want to hear.
What I was thinking is a bit less. Is a bit less heavy than your example.
Sorry,
but I can't remember who it was, and I can't remember what chat channel it was. But I was mentioning that I wish I'd developed a career in sleeve note writing. I would have loved to write sleeve notes for albums, because that's an art form in itself, and it's you've really got to be concise there. And somebody said in whatever channel it was, well, you could still, even for a record that's already out there, you could reinvent the sleeve notes. You could write the sleeve notes just as an exercise yourself. So I thought, I apologize up front because I can't remember whoever suggested that in whatever chat. But I thought that's a good idea, and so I'm now passing that idea on to you, Stephen. Is that if listen to me through. If you have because you're on this thing where you collect, if somebody says one sentence and you think, oh, jihad's on the lawn, write that down. So if anybody happens to in the future, if anybody happens to say something about, say, Paul Simon, and you think, oh, that's very succinct. That's very succinctly said about the essence of Paul Simon, and you write it down. That in itself could be the essence of a sleeve note that you write then on the back of that. So I'm now passing on that what was passed on to me in chat. I'm now passing that on to you. Sleeve notes.
No. We're going to do hashtag viral community. Take your favorite album and rewrite. Take your favorite album and rewrite the sleeve notes.
Yeah.
It's a challenge to all those jackasses.
And do you know? I mean, here's a really frustrating example for you, Stephen. The last band I was really into, with a vengeance, was a Manchester band called I Am Clued.
Hey, Ruth Ann's here. Hey, Ruth Ann. Hey.
There you go. Hello, Ruth Ann.
Ruth Ann, if you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Hey.
So this Manchester band called I Am Clued was pretty legendary in Britain. Actually, it's like a cult band that people follow. And Johnny Bramwell, who was the main guy who wrote all the songs and was the lead guitarist and the singer, he was a mate at the time. I'm going back to 1998. And so another friend of mine called Dave, who was an eccentric, who was so eccentric that his nickname...
Which of your friends would not be eccentric?
He's right. So his nickname was Enigmatic Dave. And it turns out that Enigmatic Dave got on quite well with Johnny Bramwell because he could appreciate the oblique conversational style that my mate Dave had. And we were all...
That is such a Mancunian story.
We were all together drinking in a Manchester theatre pub called the Green Room, and Johnny Bramwell was about to record his first album with I Am Clute, and he said, right out of the blue, off the top of his head, but he meant it. It was genuine. He said to my mate Dave, "You write the sleeve notes. Write the sleeve notes, Dave." And you knew, I mean, if Johnny said something, he meant it. So Dave said, "Okay, I will." And unlike Johnny, when Dave said something, it didn't necessarily follow through. So time went on. Johnny had to get the sleeve notes from somebody else. And so the first I Am Clute album doesn't have Enigmatic Dave's sleeve notes on. And that drove me nuts for years. And I would say to Dave, "Why didn't you follow through? He was, you could have come up with something and it would be on all the albums now." And what Dave said to me was typically enigmatic and beautiful. What Dave said to me was, "Well, he asked me, that was enough." And he just let it go. He just let it go with that. He didn't have to follow through. He wasn't as tenacious as me. And in a sense, that Dave taught me a lesson about letting go when he said that. It still drove me nuts that he didn't follow through, but I could see it from his point of view. He asked me, that was good enough. So it was like Dave sort of reduced the idea of sleeve notes to some sort of conceptual art where he didn't have to write the fucking thing. So that's my sleeve notes. I mean, I would have loved it if Johnny would have asked me, but it was Dave's oblique take he was interested in, because he knew that if he'd have picked me because of my analytic mind, I would have nailed down the lyrics. And I don't think Johnny would have liked that. He likes the ambiguity of his lyrics. So if you listen to any I Am Clute album, they're all very ambiguous lyrics. And Dave, my mate Dave, was so oblique in his conversational style that he wouldn't have given the game away about the lyrics. So I think that's why he would have come up with something very distinctive, Dave. So I think Johnny made the right choice, except that Dave didn't follow through, alas.
No, yeah, well, the other thing I wanted to say is
here's an example of enigmatic Dave, Steven. So we're both dining in a restaurant which used to be a gallery cinema that I used to go into when I was much younger, and we're both eating there. And Dave notices that there's no salt and pepper on the table. So Dave says, "Hang on, I'm just going to go and find a waitress and I'll bring back some salt and pepper." And I knew the minute he was gone that I'd be waiting for 10 fucking minutes for him to come back. But because it was like, it used to be the circle of a circle balcony of a cinema, I could look right across the space and see where Dave.
I remember those circle balconies were amazing. I know what you're talking about.
So he
velvet seats.
So he walked right across the length of the cinema, and I could see him. He was in my eyesight, and I saw him find a waitress, and they were talking, and they were talking, and they were talking, and they were talking. They were talking for fucking ages. And that's typical of Dave, is that when he gets in a conversation, there's something about his oblique style that brings somebody else out of whatever their role is. So this was a woman whose role was a waitress, but Dave would never talk to her as a waitress. He would talk to her as a woman, and therefore she would respond in that way. So he ended up with her whole life story by the time he got back. And he didn't have the fucking salt and pepper because she said she's going to bring it. So he didn't even come after all that. That's very typically Dave. So no wonder he didn't write the fucking sleeve notes.
Well, getting back to Sleeve Notes, I mean, you've seen my earlier streams were with Keith, and Keith.
Yeah,
we did StreamYard. Yeah, we did StreamYard yesterday. He's back on the
from
block.
Prague.
The
Keith from Prague, is that right?
Yeah, he's originally from Pittsburgh, but yeah,
but
Prague.
He's living in Prague now. Yeah,
recently been working with Fugazi, working on an incredible film. Alice and Gary have been working on some hip hop stuff. These guys have. We managed to. They came and did a shoot which I organized. Gary was in and out with Alice, who's a top hip hop photographer. He was in and out with Alice. In July, we got the last interview with a very, very prominent South African traditional musician for our film. And now we've got a last little leg. Then it's possibly that Keith Richards bit that we've got to get, which they say, yeah, Keith's going to do it, but who knows when, but at least we've got two, the Stones Camp. But Keith and I chatted yesterday, stuff happening, and he's written liner notes, and he said, "Let's start rolling some streams."
Yes, he has. Yeah, and I always like Keith's appearances because he's a really affable fellow. Plus, he knows Sam Selvon's writing, the Caribbean writer who relocated to the UK, Sam Selvon, and Keith knows Sam Selvon's writing, so that's cool.
Well, he's ready to. We probably. Today later, that's my today. I've still got to go to the apartment. I'm not going to sleep, as you know. I'm going to go to the apartment with the builder at 3, and then I've got a Zoom call with Prague, Austin, Texas, our other producer. I think Gary and Alice are probably somewhere in the States, and myself. We've got a Zoom call just to talk about a shoot that's got to happen pretty soon, hopefully, and then. That's today. But Keith said, listen, we need to start rolling a little bit of a thing. And I got into the whole fountain pen and the writing and stuff yesterday and the typewriters. He's into that kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
I mean, I needed to point you to his film Final Generation, which is on when they were trading records in the forests of the Czech Republic before before 1989. And the other stuff that he's done.
He's got a good energy, as Keith.
Oh man! Last night, he's a brother of note. But
yeah,
like I said, he said let's start rolling it. And we spoke pens and writing last night and other stuff. I'm saying is
just to bring the tone down 1 second, Steven, because I'm getting desperate. I'm just going to go for a piss. If you just give me 2 minutes, I'm just going for a piss.
Too much information. That's my brother sometimes says to me. Anyway, Ruthann, it's lovely to see you here. We just kind of rolling a little bit of a how do I say? Just a little bit of a chat. I was just showing some records. I'm actually quite confident these days. Just like how to go. Really get to a new place. Let's pull out another record just while we're at it. Why did I keep this? This is just a typically shitty. Oh, it's an American press, but it's a Opera Rephrases Violin and Orchestra. Yeah, it's got a bit of ringware. It's a US press. But that's the kind of record I keep. I mean, people talk about artwork. I mean, it's not all rock and roll, man. Look at that picture. Look at that. Yeah, this is the Opera Paraphrase for Violin and Orchestra. It's on a US budget label called Turnabout. Yeah, and actually, no, this is a Canadian press, the Moss Music Group. Distributed in Canada recorded in July 1977. Who is the artist? Ruggiero Ricci, one of the greatest violinists. That's must have been one of his later recordings. Yeah, that's why I kept it, because it's like keeping a David Oyster. So yeah, this is original. Got a Columbia sleeve. I don't know why. This has got to be clean. But you can see just a pristine, and it's grooved. Turnabout. Where was this pressed? Oh my god! And this is it's either quadraphonic or stereo compatible. So in other words, if you've got a fine line stylus, and guess what? You can actually see that this record, because you can actually see from the ringer, this record has never been played. It showed it's a Ruggiero Ricci.
What year is that? What year?
The 1977. But I mean, he's one of the greatest violinists.
Wow.
Yeah, I know my artists, not necessarily the composers, but I mean, I've heard, the first time I heard Oistrakh, and I've kept like a Michael Rabin or two, I've kept, but my rarest Oistrakh ever I did sell, and I sold that to Asia. I sold that record for equivalent of about $12,000 or $15,000.
Woof!
Record.
I can't imagine in the thousands. I can show you the most expensive record I ever bought, which I only bought a month ago, and it was.
You be going a little bit.
I know. I've gone
Gaga.
I know. This was £187, and it's a.
That's a lot of money. No, that's a shitload of money. That's a couple of pens, eh? It's a couple of pens.
he wanted 250 quid for it, but there's no way I was going to pay that. 187 is still ridiculous, and it's a Bernard Herrmann soundtrack, and it's not even Bernard Herrmann's best score, but it's a limited edition. I think limited edition is 300, but whatever it is, it's a limited edition, and it's like there are a bunch of accessories with it. So the soundtrack is this.
Oh my God! Look at that cut. So you see, talk about cover art.
So it's one of Alfred Hitchcock movies that Herrmann did.
Oh, just hang on. Sorry. Pen and paper. I'm going to try and find it to stream. It's Marnie, hey?
Yeah, but the weird thing is, Steven, what I've just showed you there is an alternate cover that comes with the set. So you get that, but you also get this. So you get two versions.
That's got some sort of obi on it.
Yeah, yes, it has. So you get two versions of this cover. It's a double album. So it's a 45 RPM of the original soundtrack.
Oh, it must be. By the way, you sorted out your turntable problem, eh?
I think I have, yeah. I mean, it's good enough for an audiophile wouldn't put up with it.
No. But you remember we're having that phono stage thing and we were going through it and.
Yeah. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine now.
So
that's good. Good equipment you got there.
You get that. I don't know if it's worthwhile. No, the label's not worth the label itself is not interesting.
No, it's got those black archival inner sleeves. They're beautiful.
Yeah,
with the polys in it.
But what you also get with it is this bag of goodies, which includes, hang on, the 45 RPM main titles of Psycho.
Oh my God! Don't look at that cover again. Look at that art. Look at the eyes, and look at that the nose, the eyes, the eyebrows, the eyelashes.
On a 7-inch single. And you also get, what is this? Oh yeah, it's not a very interesting looking cover, but this is also a 7-inch single of the Marnie main title theme as well. So you get those.
No. I mean, that's a beautiful pack.
And you also get, hang on. You also get a CD of Marnie, and the Marnie. The Marnie CD looks like that when you open it out. So you can just about see Hitchcock on the left hand side of your screen, hold it with his head in his hand, sat there. Maybe if I bring it, no, it's not going to come closer.
No, my God, I want that. You see,
and on the right hand side, you see Sean Connery and Tippi Hedren sat together by that coffee table.
Good job. Is just look at that gatefold and how that picture folds out.
Yeah, so that's the CD that you also get with it, so you get that as well.
You got a CD player, right?
Yes, I have. That was the final. Yeah.
No, because CDs are good. I mean, I sometimes love it. It's just easy. I generally I don't have remote control, so I play a CD like a record. Obviously, and also because my stylus isn't that expensive, but I have no problem with a good CD. As long as I've got some good. I mean, obviously, I love my records. But music is music, as long as we can just do what we've got to do.
Well, there are some soundtracks that you can only get on CD that were never put on vinyl, especially Jerry Goldsmith stuff. So that forced me to go into the CD market, because it's really, film soundtracks were really the first genre that I collected in records when I was a teenager. It wasn't rock and roll; it was film soundtracks, and that's the period that I'm returning to as I struggle to find the illusion of recapturing my youth. I start going back to Lalo Schifrin soundtracks and Jerry Goldsmith.
Lalo Schifrin is just godly.
Yeah,
godly.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I mean, and I'm sure Maz would like this. And this is just a bootleg, but it is brilliant. I bought this when I was living in Mongolia, but it's Chinese. But this is a set of Paris, Texas vendors.
Oh,
box set.
Is that a CD, Stephen?
No, let me show you. And it's a bootleg. It's Chinese, but it's so.
Right.
And it's beautifully packaged. So you've got the box, and inside you've got this double slipcase that comes out. You've got that, and there you've got the DVD and the music.
Oh, cool.
Package. Not there.
And that's a bootleg.
Yeah, it's Chinese.
Somebody's put a lot of time into that there.
No, they made them beautiful, and then you've got this booklet.
Yeah.
But as you can see, look at that.
Yep.
Chinese.
Yep, got it. Right.
But
Cool.
these are HD CDs that they've tested, and they are very, very. Let me show you the. There's a thing about a CD. When we used to record in the studio, we used to use a brand called Quantity, which is what Mobile Fidelity uses these days when anybody talks about their CDs or the good CDs. Okay, so a CD or a DVD. So your average CD was supposed to wear through it, and your average CD, when you looked at the underside, what color is it? Silver, right?
Oh,
silver color.
What? Yeah. Go on. I'll let you finish your story, and I'll tell you something about that silver color in a second.
Yeah. So these are the typical studio ads. These are gold. These are my we used to buy these. Gold, DVD, HD CD, gold. All the Mobile Fidelity, you'll see that's it's as thick as hell. They've been obviously hand cut, bootlegged, or whatever. They play gorgeously. I've had this more than 20 years, and it's better than some proper silver and other American CDs that I bought that have become rubbish over years or badly made.
You know, Stephen, that I was a postman all through the 1980s before I was qualified in anything. So from 1980 to 1990, I was a postman. Okay, there was a record shop that closed down in the local precinct, and the postman whose round it was a friend of mine, and the distributors were still sending records when the place had closed down, and you're supposed to return them. But he gave me a CD. I can no longer remember what the CD was, but he gave me the CD. Now, this would have been, I don't know, it feels like it must have been 1982 or something like that. Now, this was science fiction to me, because I looked at it and I saw that it had a picture on one side, and as you say, the silver on the other side, but I couldn't see any grooves in the silver. So what I did when I got home is I put it on my Lynn Sondeck and put the needle on, the silver side to see whether it would play. That's how fucking ignorant I was back then about CDs.
Well, I had friends who bought CDs in the 80s and stuff. I got my first, I stuck with vinyl and cassettes and reels with my dad. I only got my first CD player in 1991.
Right.
I stuck it out, hey?
Yeah.
I just was not interested. and it was a Marantz, my brother. Yeah, I was like a bit of a hard-headed, like fucking, hey, this is me. I'm records. Everybody, we got CDs. I'm like, no. And everybody was buying CDs, and there was me buying cheap records and stuff over the years. That's how I acquired a lot of my collection.
As you say, Stephen, I stuck it out with regards to video tape machine players. I stuck it out with CD players, and I stuck it out with computers until 2002 or something like that. I didn't have a computer. So I was always the last man standing in terms of being pushed into the future. And now I refuse to have a mobile phone of any kind, and I never have had a mobile phone. So this laptop that I'm talking to you on now, that's as far as I fucking go into the future. I'm not interested in going any further.
Well, I've got friends that don't go on social media. Not been there. My own. Right. I've got family members like my brother. No Facebook, nothing, nada. Days I hated because I had to teach it, and that was part of my work. And so, like, I've hit the 5,000 on Facebook and a couple of followers, and I've got people that love me, people that hate me, or whatever. I thought that my YouTube was going to just, not like that. And actually, it's been a beautiful lesson watching Rachel. Actually, to see the show now and just to see sort of a calmness and less agenda. It's just even Rob,
I'm just never interested in the YouTube numbers racket. I don't index quality with how many views something gets or how many subscribers somebody has. I understand that most people on YouTube do that, and they do follow.
Well, some people are monetizing; they're getting their businesses going through it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So they pay more attention to it. But even on that level, I'm just not. It doesn't guide me at all. And I also think that there's a great danger in YouTube in dumbing down by chasing the YouTube numbers racket, because if you're looking to pander to whatever people will view rather than following your own compass, then I think that leads to a tabloid mentality, and it will come down to the lowest common denominator of what the majority of the people will see. I know that sounds elitist, but really all I'm saying is that a host should just follow their own compass, which means following their own enthusiasms, whether it's hit or miss with the viewers or not, and develop their own penchant for what they're doing instead of trying to find out what you're interested in. Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? And then just playing to that type.
Absolutely, and I'm going to give you a very good, and it gets back to what you were saying, because I've gone back and actually watched the show the other night. It was William's channel, and I gave it a like.
Yeah,
it was a good show.
He's all right. Yeah, and he's okay.
Yeah, it wasn't about numbers and stuff. But he's got his own following and his own way of dealing with stuff, and he's advertising his own business, and he's moving and scalping and doing records his own way. And some people are jealous. And so what I'm saying is, I was of the opinion that, okay, so we can just monetize straight from YouTube and Patreon and that. It's not going to do it. I've got stuff that I can move from here. I've got gear and services. How we can do with tape machines right now, what people are not even doing in the US. So in other words, my tech and I have opened up 3 or 4 machines, which are these tiny motors that people normally throw away. They're like, this tape deck is junk, and it could be a 3-head or whatever. And fearlessly, he'll open up like those little old mini motors. He'll open it up. He did for one of my decks, and he replaced a tiny capacitor inside a tiny little, remember those toy airplane type engines? Those motors, those little, you used to put a little battery on them, build something.
Like with little toy speedboats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's some cassette decks around of those, and they're not made anymore. It's like lasers. He's invented his own DACs using tubes and stuff, taking old Marantz CD players, or replaced mechanisms, and we are doing stuff right now that is way beyond the average American person. Some of the Slovaks and other, but we are doing stuff right now. I mean, he's fearless. We tweaked a couple of things where we've just replaced a capacitor here, capacitor there. Or I had a certain problem with one of my things, and he said, well, if that noise is happening, and I said, well, I'm worried. I said, suddenly the LED's gone. And he said, no. He said, actually, that LED is not working. Don't worry about it, because the LED in the circuit is going to bring noise. I said, yeah, but I don't know if the amp's on or off, and it's got tubes. And he said, well, you can look through the cage. This is the preamp, because you can't leave tubes on. They get hot and they're expensive. And so I did that. And if it ain't broken, don't worry about it. But funny enough, this dude has invented, because he also reprograms remote controls and stuff when people lose remotes and stuff. So he's invented a remote. We only used it once. But you could be sitting, okay, say in other words, you're sitting at your local pub, right? And everybody is into Man United and they're watching a Man U game, all right? And you might be a City supporter or whatever. And you're just feeling pissed off, right? And there's 5 screens in the pub, right? He's got a remote that as we walk out of that bar that he's invented, you can switch off every single TV in the bar and nobody knows.
Is that the tech? You mentioned a tech guy in the email that you said might be.
Yeah, there's this guy that I'm working with.
That's the same guy that you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it was just okay. Yeah, I mean, he just showed me that that can do that. But what I've realized is we've worked out like electricity, and especially when you're listening to tubes and music. So he's got a thing in his room where he's got like a remote where every single light switches off. Near field listening. We're listening to vinyl. Well, no, he's mostly digital, but it's all tube. It's absolutely brilliant equipment. Handmade sort of tube DACs from like Slovak countries and all of that, the Lampazators. And we're sitting there, and especially at nighttime when the electricity grid is quiet, he just puts it in total darkness. He's got a switch, like every bit of lighting in the room goes off. And you just sit there, like close to those speakers, and they could be like mine, big, but they're close to me. Near field, like you're in a studio, and you sit there, and there was these ribbon tweeters, and suddenly this music opened up. And I remember he's a big fan of French music, and we were listening to some Piaf. He's also become a bit of a Nancy Sinatra, Lee Hazelwood. We've been going through the beautiful music journey together, and in the absolute darkness, at a certain hour in the middle of the night, daytime it can't happen. And you're sitting there in darkness, and the electricity grid, everything's quiet. You don't need volume with tubes because they don't, they're just different. It's a lot of detail. And you sit there, and I sat there, and it was like, oh my God. The last time I heard a system like that was a Japanese audiophile place. And actually, it was I've been in Japan, but there was a Japanese guy who was actually, it was in Myanmar, of all places. I was in that room. And I heard a system which was some BBC spec speakers just through a soundstage. But that was all room treated, everything. But in that darkness, and I've done it here a few times lately, late at night, and then I suddenly switch on my tubes. In absolute darkness, but like it's got to be like 3 a.m. No one else is awake. And absolute darkness. And that music just, it comes at you, and it's just like, what the hell has happened? And people don't get it,
In a way, I grew up with vacuum valve tubes because my father, one of his many different types of jobs, and the one he settled on for longest, he was a television engineer, and so he used to repair the televisions in the 1960s for everybody in the neighborhood for free. But he was also out in the garden shed even into the 1970s with this fantasy that he would invent 3D television. And the guy was still running off vacuum valves to do this, and he experimenting out there with different television tubes. Never got anywhere, of course, but that was his big pipe dream, that he would work out how to make an affordable 3D television. So because of the old fellow, I kind of grew up with that kind of circuitry and valves all around the house. And yet when it came time for me to step up and become a television engineer, like I was telling Nick, I failed miserably on the factory floor. So for 2 years, I was demoted from an apprenticeship television engineer to a television tester, which any fucker could do. A chimpanzee could be a television tester. And that's the tale that I tell Nick, because of course he's a master electrician who can build amplifiers and things like that. So I turned out to be the opposite, despite all my father's valve tubes all over the show in the 1960s. I just never took any of it on board.
Well, it's interesting, yeah, because I mean, Nick has cloned. He's cloned a preamp that I own the original, which is designed by. He passed during the early part of the pandemic. He was British. But he lived in Kenya for a while. This is an interesting story. It was the late Tim Pavaroncini, and he had a company called EAR. But he worked in South Africa for many years. He met his wife, who was Japanese. He went to Japan to work for Luxman for many years, and then went back to the UK and started EAR. And when I used to write to Tim on social media, if I wrote in caps or my grammar was not correct, he would crap me out. He was a pucker gentleman. You just go and look at the Tim Pavaroncini. And I've got an EAR 834P, which Nick has cloned. Everybody clones that. That's a phono preamp, just a phono preamp.
Right.
It's tubes. Then I've got my Audio Notes UK. I mean, this is stuff that you order. That's also a Finnish guy who was in Japan again, but landed up in the UK. Handmade in the UK on order. You wait 6 months for those things. I think they probably cost about like nearly £10,000. I've got a demo model. Other stuff is handmade. But if I look right now, it's just kind of weird. If I look right now, I've got another handmade preamp. I've got one to each amp is a monoblock. So I've got one. So that's it. 1, 2 to 2 preamps, 2 monoblocks, and then the one phono preamp, and then another small little headphone amp. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units in my system that use tubes, and I think in total there must be about 20 or 30 tubes. No, about 20 tubes. Yeah, and it's kind of weird because you get the new ones. I mean, obviously with Russia and China and what's been going on, because that's where they kept the factories going. You know, America's starting to make again, but you know, I've got like old like, they were all made in Russia or whatever, but I've got like old Mallards and Philips Mini Watts, you know, and old RCAs, vintage tubes. Nick knows that stuff. I promise you, and you put that stuff in, you just listen, and you'll put it in YouTube. It's not the same. Yeah, it's like that old. It's like the quality of the attention to detail that they got when they used to manufacture things, and now everything is just like goes into a landfill, and I hate that.
Yeah,
that's why I like. We're talking about the records; they're not just getting thrown away; they will get upcycled or used for clocks or whatever. You know.
Funny thing about Nick is not only is he an electrical engineer, he's bigger on grammar in writing than I am. He's because of the way his father taught him. He's quite a fusspot on grammar, whereas I tend to trust rhythm more than grammar to generate the coherence of a sentence. But Nick's very firm on grammatical coherence in writing. I mentioned that because you mentioned it about it being instilled in you, about somebody picking up on your grammar every time.
Yeah, I mean, at times I get lazy, and also because I've worked so much with Americans and over the years, so sometimes I go a little bit between American and British English,
right?
And really, at times, I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, my brother's been out of the country longer than I have, and I think at times his accent is a stronger South African accent than mine in a certain way. Sometimes, you know, I'll still say yeah, and there's certain South African things, you know. I generally go because of my work. You know, I'll go and spell lazily the word color with one O. You know, tomato, you know, potato. Yeah, let's call the whole thing off.
Yeah, I've been far more influenced by American literature than I have been by English literature, and I think that the greatest writers of the 20th century have been American writers, not British. British have lagged behind because of the conservative sensibility of the British character. It's too formal to break out of that and go to places where the American writers went. From the Beat Generation, even before that, the Lost Generation had started it, through the Beat Generation, right through to the great new journalists like Mailer and Vonnegut and Tom Wolfe. That's where I learned the craft, from those guys, not from any. I love Dickens.
Of course.
I love him because he can make me laugh out loud. So these are great artists, but the people who influenced me by far the most were all American writers in the 20th century.
And I'm just Googling right now, what pen did Vonnegut use? Do you know?
Oh no, I don't. I don't know if he used a pen. You know, I'm not sure.
I've got it here.
Oh, have you?
Vonnegut.
Okay.
Yeah, just I told you, I'll always wax lyrical on stuff that interests. Remember, I told you that what saved my life was besides studying the mathematics and logic and philosophy and a bit of the economics and the politics and something, but it was that I did post-war American literature as one of my majors when I studied English. Post-war American fiction.
Well, so in that case. What pen? What pen did this little fellow here that I'm showing you now on screen? What pen did he use?
He used Noodler's fountain pen, specifically the Noodler's Creeper model, often filled with Noodler's walnut ink. But he also reportedly used other pens, even suggesting a Pelikan M1000, and that's I think going to be my next pen because you could buy them here, and they're not expensive, for signing documents, highlighting his versatile pen use through Noodler's seems a key association. And I'm going to show you one thing. Talk about Pelikan, and this is a tribute to Vonnegut. That's the one Pelikan thing that I didn't buy when I had to get it. Just let me find it here. Because it's about that bottle. Oh my God. And so I don't have a Pelikan pen yet, but I had to get some ink for some of my pens. And this is, we don't have that many stationers. We've got one that's okay. They can order things. There's one or two bespoke ones. You've got to wait stuff online. I've got a local place down the road. That's where I got the Lamy, and I've got some whatever. But I wanted some ink. But the bottle, some of them make crap bottles. But it's that glass. Pelikan, it's written in there. Now this is made in Germany.
Are you sure that isn't aftershave lotion, Stephen?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put it all over my face. And I'm not going to open it right now. I also, it was kind of funny. Actually, I needed some blotting paper and other stuff. And I had a pair of jeans, old denims. That I just decided, some I'm going to patch up and stuff. They were vintage Levi's, but I cut them into shorts. But I took the bottoms of the jeans and I've cut it into little pieces that become like blotting paper. We whacked the nib.
Right.
Yeah. Old T-shirts and stuff, But this Pelikan ink is just, it flows very nicely through a pen. So here I paid the equivalent of about 100 Rand, which is probably, what's that? That's about less than £5 for a bottle.
Oh, that's all right.
And this is it's a 30 ml. Most people go for this is a Pelikan 4001. I went for blue. I want a black or a blue black, but I mean, I'm loving blue. I've spent so many years writing in black ink. Always because it was the signature or everything. And then you get to blue and brown. And that brown is more like a golden kind of like blacky. It's just got something about it. And you look at it like on and especially your paper must not be like white. It's more like a yellowish kind of paper, and then you as that ink just spreads on it. And so Vonnegut used he used a Pelikan pen, and I think that's amazing. And because it says here, oh my God, where are we? Where are we? Yeah. The Noodler's fountain pen, the Noodler's Creeper, but it says he reportedly also used the Pelikan M1000. But now I'm going to Noodler's photos. Photos and discussions show Vonnegut with Noodler's pens, particularly the Creeper pen with the distinctive inks like the walnut. Some fans associate him with the Pelikan pens. So there are photographs. There's a Reddit thing which says R. Fountain is Drew Kurt Vonnegut with Noodler's pens, walnuts, blah, blah, blah. Everyday writers in the 1960s, page 2, pen history, fountain pen network. The Schaefer school pen, again, $1. That's the one I've got.
But I wonder what I'm wondering what I'm wondering whether those fountain pens played any role in Vonnegut's writing process, because I think he went straight to manual typewriter. I don't think he had an earlier draft stage. Maybe they were for writing letters or something. The fountain pen.
Let me look. People they moved around. You were in bars and other places. You were in restaurants. You were in other people's places. You didn't carry a typewriter with you. Get it? Yeah, people had a bit of a diary. Okay, you didn't. Yeah. Did you thinking like a bloody? You thinking that the typewriter was a fucking computer? Come on, dude. Now that's cracking me up. You get it? And then in between it all, then we got the computer. Okay, then we got the phone. And then in between, we got the tablets, and then we were all just like fucked up. What is it? I'm using my iPad for.
That generation that I admire, that I've just been speaking about, the last great American generation of great writers, the new journalists, they seem to stop at the point of electric typewriters. They went that far. I'm talking about people like Vonnegut and Hunter Thompson. They went that far.
Yeah.
So they moved from the manual typewriter. They moved from the manual typewriter into electric typewriter, but they didn't quite go as far as the computer. It's like the book stopped there. With
the book stopped there. Yeah. Let me show you something. If I really want to go a little bit old school, even though I know you don't go to mobile phones, but I still own one of these. That's a little Nokia. Old school.
So that's old fashioned now. To me, that's science fiction, you see, but I guess that's old fashioned now.
Yeah, it works.
Here's how old-fashioned I am, Steven. There was a woman I sometimes used to bump into in Manchester, and one of the things she always used to say to me straight away, which will sound kind of odd, but in Manchester you can cross boundaries like that. She said, "You always smell like old books." Instead of saying hello, that's what I got. You always smell like old books. And I'm going back, God, first time I bumped into her, maybe 20 years ago. So even in my 40s, I smell like old books.
Yeah, that's exactly so. Like I said, and my eyes have suffered, but the more I've actually spent off the computer and the phone. So even like on the computer, like I'll sit here and if I do my banking or whatever, it's better to look at the computer screen. Some people just use their phone for everything. And even a friend of mine the other day, and his eyes are suffering. Wow. And I said, so even when I do like a WhatsApp call, I've got WhatsApp on my computer. And I put these headphones on and I don't look at the screen and sit there, walking around with the phone, because your eyes are very precious. And my eyes, they've actually gotten better. So, and the more I can sit back now, so I'll be sitting back now, okay, and I could be I'll be talking to somebody, for example, having a conversation. I'll be sitting here and I've got my book and I've got my pen. And I'm scribbling, or I'm doodling, or I'm noodling, or I'm doing whatever, doesn't matter. But it's nice to sit back like this. And the computer screen's there, but it's about a meter away from me where you are. I can't even touch it. The mouse is on the side, and I'm sitting with paper.
Well, yeah, when in terms of when I read books like this, whose cover I've ruined by leaving it outside in the snow. So that's the book I'm reading at the moment, which is
that must be
it's an oral history.
So has it got a little bit? Has it got anything about Band on the Run and the time in Lagos?
Yes, it has. So whenever I read anything, I'm always making notes like that. But not with a fountain pen, just with a ballpoint pen. So I still engage in handwriting every day because I'm reading every day.
Yeah, I just think you must get yourself a little, find your old pen that you got there and go and ink it out.
Yeah, it's here somewhere, and I did tell you, didn't I? I've got a bottle of ink somewhere outside in the shed that was from my old school. So it's at least a pint of ink.
Oh my God, I'd love to know what that is. It's probably like that can probably go on eBay for like a fortune.
Probably. Probably when my old school closed down before they demolished it, I ransacked the place for stuff, and that was one of the things I ransacked.
Vincent's South African, so if he's here still, I don't know if he's here, but I just pulled this out. I mean, this is kind of weird, these boxes, but I'm going to show you something else. This is my old mathematical instruments pencil boxes, Oxford. Like inside, so yeah, I've got cartridges for pens. I've got another. I've still got some old, like triangles and all of that. But what I wanted to show you here, where I put it, was here. It is. This is the brown ink from 1982, the Schaefer cartridge ink. Taking one cartridge out.
I see it.
So on the back, yeah. So I'll even take the cartridge out. I mean, I can. And actually, they're still full. But this is brown ink. It says brown. So there were 6. I don't even think you can get these anymore. But at the back, it says here, Schaefer script ink, Schaefer Eastern Division, Fort Madison, Iowa. What pull down carefully. It's made in the States. Okay, it's got an American barcode. It says 80s. Pull down carefully. So in South Africa, I bought it at a stationer here, and I paid the equivalent then of R2.55, which is like now it would be like less than 2 pence there. But, so when I went and bought new inks now, so you buy, some Lammies are actually cheaper. Parker's more expensive. So this is 100 Rand, which about 100 or so, which would probably be about 3-4 pounds. And the Lamy, which is German, these cartridges are 69 Rand. So that would probably be like 2-3 pounds for like 5 cartridges. And that'll probably for these are longer cartridges. I mean, it lasts a couple. 5 cartridges a lot can last you. If you're not writing all the time, a couple of months. For those cartridges. It's actually quite. Obviously, ink is more cost efficient and less plastic and less landfill. But
a good piece of objet d'art for your new flat when you move into your new apartment. I was telling you about Kubrick's 2001 and the in-joke of the spaceship traveling from the Earth to the moon, and one of the passengers having fallen asleep, and he's let the pen fall out of his hand, and the stewardess comes and picks up the fountain pen and puts it back in his jacket while he's still sleeping. So people don't get the in-joke of it being a fountain pen. What they get is, how did they do the special effect? Because it seems to be floating. And it's on what they did is they pasted the fountain pen on this circular transparent disc and let the disc revolve. So what you see is this fountain pen seeming to float in space. So I think when you move into your new flat, you should rig up some motor that gives you that transparent disc and be able to do that with a fountain pen. About 1 in 1,000 people will get the joke.
Well, just thinking because you were talking about Kubrick and so that was 2001: Space Odyssey. That was where he used it was the Richard Strauss, the Das Spoke Zarathustra was the.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I've got a couple of different copies of that. I've probably got a shitty copy somewhere, but maybe I should take that record and put it on a motor. With a pen that spins around it or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be a very, very cool thing to do. Because that is also an incredible. I'm not that familiar with 2001 as I am obviously with Clockwork Orange. This Clockwork Orange is just to just like tickle my fancy, and I've got both. That I've also obviously got the soundtrack here. I've got. Obviously I envy your soundtracks, but I've got a couple here that we've spoken about soundtracks over a period of time, and it's just an incredible. And I always kept them separate. I've even got some cheesy like new films, you know, and even if it's like a compilation of songs from a soundtrack, like it could be like The Breakfast Club, but I put it in my. So I've got a soundtrack section. That's how I classify records. You know, like various artists, this, that. I've got my soundtracks. One thing that I did do, it was a bit of a decolonization, is I used to keep my South African music separate from like other global music. And the one day I just said, like South Africa is not that special. Let me just put it into the rest of the world or into jazz or whatever. You know, because there was South African music, it was rock, punk, this, that. Obviously, my reggae sits separately, but that Jamaica is a bit different, you know. So my reggae and my calypso sits a bit separately. The days I battle with how you actually, and again, it's like being a librarian. That is an art.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, anybody that is a trained librarian or curator.
Yes, yes.
You know, I mean, I'm sitting here right now. This might be an SABC classical record. Yeah, this is a Schumann. But I don't know, somebody, remember Electroset? No, not Electroset, the Dynamo. Little plastic thing that used to like click, 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 and he had a little plastic thing and you used to stick it on somewhere. What was it? A Dymo?
Never seen that before.
It was like wait a plastic machine.
Wait a minute, where you punch the letters or the numbers in?
Yeah, it's a piece of plastic.
That's right. Yeah, that's ringing a bell now. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I've still got it. Actually, I've got it. I've still got it. I don't know if I'll be able to use my fountain pens with it, but at least I'll be able to use rollerballs. But I've still got a plastic stencil with numbers. I used to have old Letraset. You don't have. You know, we used to make student magazines out of that. You know, typos and stuff because we didn't have computers back in the day. Yeah, but this is the Deutsche Grammophon. I mean, this is an original. Again, Michael 45 would get this. This is what you call the tulips. This Schumann, and it even says here printed in West Germany, so back this early days. But yeah, it might have been part of somebody's library or whatever. They numbered it and put this piece of dynamo tape on it. And I'm not peeling at all because it's going to tear the cover.
Yeah,
this record stands with this like funny tag. What can I do? It's the pattern there. It's the history of and we're sold by one guy who passed. It was the only classical records seller in Cape Town. His son's still alive, sells CDs now. Hans Kramer.
It's why I don't mind it if I buy a record on the back somebody's written their name on it. To me,
I like that.
Yeah, that kind of. I think Keith said something about that when he was on one of your live streams. It gives it some extra. It's part of the history of that particular copy. So it adds to it. You get that in books a lot, and
yeah, if you buy a used book and somebody's written their name in it, I'm not going to go to like Tipex it out or take it out. I keep it there.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be quite poignant. Like if you get a book like I've had, and you see an inscription inside from mum and dad to a son or a daughter, and you can't help but wonder what's happened to those people. You know the mum and dad will be dead, but why is the book being passed on now? As the son or the daughter also gone? You start to wonder about the biography of the people who have written these inscriptions. They're part of the character of the thing you bought.
Yeah,
you better tell Ruth Ann when you're moving. It's next week. No, the end of the month.
It's end of the month. Yeah, I'm in a new apartment. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's in a better area. It's still same area, good hood, but just older. Not these new sort of Chinese, thin walled kind of places. It's a building that's about 50, 60 years old, and locally. It's close to I'm not saying exactly where because
that's one of that. I always feel that's one of the sad indictments, not just on the VC, but on the whole of the internet, is that whenever you see an unboxing video, everybody has to be careful to mask the address label, and people just think about that in terms of, well, of course you do. That's security. Yes, I know it is. But just what an indictment it is that we should have to do that.
Well, besides my collection of my cutthroat razor manas, anybody wants to try and dox me or whatever, This is gonna this will deal with you. And this is as given to me in Banda Aceh. It's got my name written in Arabic on it. But I promise you, you're not gonna, no one's gonna come near me. Don't dox me. But this is a weapon of peace, actually. It's quite funny, actually. I had a mate the other day. I was getting rid of the classical, but there were some better ones, and I think I actually also messaged Vincent. I just said, hey, that I'm just getting rid of stuff. But he's a music teacher and musician and stuff, and came around and I had some cables and other stuff, just said, hey, come grab some stuff, records. And he said, no, I'll come. And I said, look, I've got to get this stuff out of the place because I've got to start moving. But I'd already put aside a section that was okay, didn't need major cleaning. But I said, listen, just bring a box and you've got to take whatever. I said, because I don't have time for you to sit here sorting. But I think it was about maybe 100 or so records out. And he came and he just gave me I'm not going to show what it is, but he gave me a copy of his band CD that's been released. Really brought it as a gift, just said, hey. And I've been around him about music scene. He's quite an accomplished artist who plays around Cape Town, but it was just a beautiful thing to, for somebody just to walk in and say, hey, sure. Thank you. And it's like, I was glad that they're going to a good home, and he teaches music. So
let's talk about potential for a minute. Let me get a coffee, Stephen, and let's talk about potential for a minute. Just as an adjunct to the conversation, not to go into it in detail, but something that you might pick up on in some later live stream. We just hit on the topic of potential for a minute, but let me get a coffee first, or at least put the kettle on.
Polly, I'm also going to do the same. So I don't know. Anybody? I'm actually I'm just gonna also instant okay. Woody, are you there? Incense is rising. God, it's light outside. What time is it? 38. Put this ink on it, it's not going to spill. I was saying, how do you make your coffee? Do you do instant or you make real coffee?
It's instant. It's black, no sugar.
I've been a bit of an instant while I get lazy, but I mean, you know, I do have these Italian mochas. You know, the espresso that pushes up, like the Bialettis.
Yeah,
I've got to put them on gas. So I've got 3 of them, and I'm very lucky. Most of them were aluminium back in the day, aluminum, as the Americans say. But I've got some stainless steel ones. I've started using them again, and oh my god, you know. But I do keep instant. Like today was a lazy day, but yeah, you know, because coffee in the morning, you know, we haven't basically slept, and we got to just like get on with the rest of the day. Well, I kind of just dozed off a bit, but you know, today is like the day where I just start new things. You know, it's the day that I'm going to go and get the shredder. I might even bring the typewriter back here just to play around tonight.
Right.
Going there with a builder, you know, and you know, might bring the typewriter back and just see, like, hey, you know, it's a brother. She said there's some old ribbons there. It's got ribbons. I don't know how this thing works. It's not ancient, you know. It's not an ancient one. It's more of a. It's more like I'd say a sort of like late 60s to 70s kind of typewriter, more compact. You know, it's more like sort of like looking at, say, yeah, it's not like as classic, but it's and it's a brother, you know, the brother brand. But yeah, my late dad had a sort of one in an old suitcase or whatever, but those were more, you know. This is obviously more compact, but I think you know, I'm going to have to see what paper it takes. I don't know if she's got paper, what it's going to do. But you know, I might just want to put like myself to a typewriter, you know, park it on my lap or on this lap desk and see what it does. Because the more you actually play with words and letters, the more it keeps us alive. Ruth Ann had a brother. Brother.
I was trying to find
far too many of you dying.
I was trying to find another rejection slip that was funny from the ones that had handwriting on them, rather than just the printed rejection slip from the 1970s. But I can't find it. This isn't a funny one, but it's appreciated actually. So this one will be from around about 1977, I think. And it was in those days I was trying to write short stories before I realized I was rubbish as a fiction writer, that wasn't my forte. And this editor, so along with the printed rejection, he has taken the time, bless him, this editor, to write in handwriting. I don't feel that this is telling me anything. I don't feel anything. Presumably I meant to ... question mark, and then he signed it. So, and actually that's very useful. You know, it can make you flinch when you get it, but actually as a young writer, that's the kind of feedback that you need. And bless his heart, Isaac Asimov, who used to have his science fiction magazine. So if you tried submitting to Isaac Asimov's magazine, not only did you get a rejection slip, but you got this printed piece of A4 paper which gave you writing tips and typing tips, which were so useful to me. You know, there's no internet in the 1970s. So he's telling you things about what to indent, when to italicize, not just house style of Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine, but various sort of protocols that would be useful no matter who you were writing for. So bless his heart, Isaac Asimov. He was a real humanitarian, actually. Isaac Asimov. He was wonderful.
Yep.
But anyway, I was going to talk a little bit about potential before we wind down, so you can think about it for later on. My master's degree is in education, and I chose for my dissertation that the notion of potential, about if you're a tutor, how do you spot something that doesn't really exist yet, because it's just the whisperings of something that might exist in the future. So how do you recognize it, and how do you measure it in terms of assessing students, and also how do you cultivate it? So there's those three main problems around the notion of potential, because it's such a wispy essence. It's not there yet, and there'll be hundreds of thousands of people in the population whose potential has never been tapped, and who will go to their grave without ever having realized their potential, and who will have lost track of their own potential themselves if they never got any feedback at school or college or in their jobs or with their partners. They won't be aware of what potential they will have had. So it's a big deal, this subject of potential. So I don't think I did enough, obviously, to get my master's degree, but I don't think my dissertation was all that good in terms of figuring out rationales for how you can cultivate and spot potential. And there were just one or two little tips that I came to, such as enthusiasm. If you see a student, and not just a young student, but it could be an old timer, some late bloomer in their 60s, if they're very enthusiastic for something, that can point to a potential and for an aptitude that will exist in the future. So if you spot the enthusiasm in some student, if you can encourage that enthusiasm and the student indulges that enthusiasm, it will lead to manifesting their potential naturally if they just follow their enthusiasm, as opposed to following a career path. So there can be a conflict of interest there, especially if you're young, where careerism and earning money points in one direction, but your heart is pointing somewhere else. And if you're ever wondering what degree to pick, it's much easier to do a degree or a master's or a PhD if you follow your enthusiasm, because your enthusiasm will do half the work to start with before you have to really dig in. So
those are amazing words, because I've just written down what you've said. Because you spoke to me when I spoke about being optimistic as about enthusiasm. I'll never forget that. That was a pivotal moment in my life that you gave me. And if I may just interject, because you spoke about whispering and all of that. And one of my friends that I spend a lot of time with, and we share a love of sort of where we came into music together, but he listens to like hardcore electronica in the car, and it can be loud. I listen to it sometimes, but not all the time, but it's most of what keeps him going. We're the same age. And we share a love of two artists, one being David Bowie and the other one being the Talking Heads. And this is a song that comes from David Byrne from the Talking Heads. He's a very, very prolific person, and it's a song called The Whispering Wind. And I'm just going to read it. And it goes, Mogic, and that's their more Africanist kind of thing, after they'd heard a bit of Fela and other stuff. I think it came from Remaining Light. Mogic sees his village from a nearby hill. Mogic thinks of days before Americans came. He serves the foreigners in growing numbers. He sees the foreigners in fancy houses. He dreams of the days that he can still remember now. Mogic holds a package in his quivering hands. Mogic sends the package to the American man. Softly he glides along the streets and alleys. Up comes the wind that made them run for cover. He feels the time is now, surely now or never more. The wind in my heart, the wind in my heart, the dust in my head, the dust in my head. The wind in my heart, The wind in my heart comes to drive them away, drive them away. The wind in my heart, the wind in my heart, the dust in my head, the dust in my head. The wind in my heart, the wind in my heart comes to drive them away, drive them away. Mujik buys his equipment in the marketplace. Mujik plants devices through the free trade zone. He feels the wind lifting up to his people. He calls the wind to guide him on his mission. He knows his friend, the wind, is always standing by. Byrne is a master. And that is why he's where he's at that age, why he's written books on music.
And the wind being so ethereal, it can stand in for any kind of potential in that lyric. It could stand in for anything.
Yeah. And the last
in Africa, don't they call it the zephyr, that kind of a wind? Is that right? Have I got that right? Zephyr? No? Okay. Okay.
The last, I didn't get to verse 4, but the last verse goes, Mujik smells the wind that comes from far away. Mujik waits for news in a quiet place. He feels the presence of the wind beside him. He feels the power of the past behind him. He has the knowledge of the wind to guide him on. And gets back to what you were saying about the future.
And the wind in your and the wind in your sails.
Yep, and as much as they're not my favorite band of the 90s, but recently, as I've gone through all of this, and it comes to bloody Oasis, just one song, just what, and I use it as an anthem these days. It's like, don't look back in anger. You know what I'm saying?
I do, because I look back usually with a lot of fondness. It's when I look forward that I look forward in anger. That's when I get angry, when I look where we're heading. So if I'm going to get angry, it'll be looking forward in anger.
You've nailed it. Actually, Ruth Ann might know something about the zephyr. I'm not a wind specialist.
Which is why I make the distinction between optimism and enthusiasm, because I cannot do optimism, but I can do enthusiasm. If you pick a subject that I can hook into, I can get very energized about that. So enthusiasm I can do.
It's amazing. I think it's been nearly 3 years you and I have been communicating on off.
Yeah, 3 years.
And I think I look at you as a brother from another mother, just somebody that I can listen to. And you'll always call me out for my shit. My BS. and I've enjoyed I enjoy that. And it's just like, today is the start of a sort of new chapter, and it's pretty, we're gonna have Nick chat with us and other stuff, but there's room for all of this. Today's the 7th of January, 2026.
Well, Nick will watch this back and wonder where the fuck he was, because he was the one who triggered this conversation, and he's not fucking here. I did email him, but you know what Nick is. He could be.
I did too, and I grabbed his Insta or whatever. But
I can tell you, if you're still awake enough for it, because we've been talking for a long while now. But I can tell you a personal story about potential.
Go for it.
Okay. Sometimes this makes me cry a bit, so I'll try not to do that, but no promises. And I didn't even realize when I was doing my master's degree that I was actually exploring my own past. So I wasn't very self-aware when I was doing my master's degree. But long before that, when I had no qualifications, when I was the failed television engineer that I told you about in the factory, where I got demoted to a television tester, I took an evening course in English. And when I went to enroll at what was then called Salford College of Technology, at the table, this Irish woman tried to talk me into A-level English night course, and I didn't have any qualifications. And I
remember. Didn't you take your A and your O's at the same time? I think you told me before.
Yeah. So just for people who don't know, A stands for advanced. And if you were planning on going to university when you were, say, 15, 16 years of age, and you were thinking ahead to college, you would be looking to get 3 A-level certificates in different subjects, and that would be a passport to university. Plus, you would get some what's called O-level certificates. O stands for ordinary. Okay, so you might get 7 or 8 of those, and the more you got of those two in combination meant the better choices for university you had. Well, I left school without any of that, none of them, and I was newly 18 years of age when I enrolled for what I enrolled for was an O-level in English, an ordinary level, just one fucking certificate to see if I could do it, since I'd flunked everything else. And the Irish woman behind the table says, well, you might as well do A-level. And I thought, oh, that's against the rules. You're supposed to have an O-level before you do the A-level. You can't just jump. But she tossed all that aside and said, no, just do the A-level. And I was so lacking in confidence that not only could I not say yes to the A-level, I also couldn't say no to an adult, because at 18 I didn't really feel like I was an adult, and she was telling me what to do on the other side of the desk, and I couldn't say no. So what I did as a compromise, I said, well, I'll do the O-level Tuesday evening class, and I'll do the A-level Thursday evening literature class as well. And what I was thinking in my head was, it's only a matter of time before I get thrown out of A-level, and then I've got O-level to fall back on. So she looked so totally unimpressed with that decision, but what she said was, if that's what it takes, so sign here. So you have to sign the forms, the enrollment forms. So I did that. So now I was committed to do O-level on Tuesday and A-level on Thursday. And when I went to the first A-level class and sat down, we waited for the teacher to come in. It was the Irish woman who'd been on the enrollment desk. So she'd been just like canvassing for her own course, roping in as many people as she could. So she was our tutor for the year. And the first assignment that was due was on Shakespeare. And I hadn't read any Shakespeare. The school I went to was quite low grade, and Shakespeare was nowhere on the radar. And it was one of the worst Shakespeare plays to have to deal with, not in terms of quality, but in terms of the fact that the original material was lost and scrambled. So it was just more difficult to negotiate the text. It was measure for measure. So we all were given this assignment of measure for measure, which we all wrote in the old style, handwritten essays, and handed them in, and waited for 2 weeks, and then she would call our names out, which she did at the end of one of the evening classes. But she didn't. My name wasn't amongst them. She would call your name out, and she would hand you your marked assignment back, and I was sat there waiting with everybody else, and she didn't give mine back, but she mentioned my name, not knowing where I was sat, and said, "Will you wait behind?" And I thought, that's it. I'm going to get bounced out like I always fucking knew I would. So, I wish she wouldn't have taught me into this in the first place. So now I've got to face the rejection of being bounced out of the class. Why didn't she just let me enroll for the O-level like I wanted to, instead of having to go through this ordeal? And honest to God, at 9 o'clock, when the evening class finished, as the other adults, and I was the youngest person in the class, because it was an adult education class. At 18, I was the youngest. I really did think about making a beeline for the door and just making a run for it, because I didn't want to stick around just to be rejected. I wouldn't come back. But for some reason, I stayed there and sat there, and she proceeded to wipe the blackboard down with a board duster, which is what teachers used to do in the old days. And while she was doing that, she was asking me questions. And she asked me about my parents, and she asked me about my job, and she asked me about my education, and she asked me where I lived. And all the answers I could give her were just so nondescript that she wasn't getting any clue about what her instinct was telling her, which makes it all the more remarkable. What a remarkable woman that was. I can feel it now. It's so moving. Just at the point where I thought she was going to say, well, you're going to have to go, because you're not, I've read your assignment, you're nowhere fucking near the mark. And what she said was, well, you're a budding intellectual, you must go to university.
Yeah.
Just blew my mind, right? Because it was exactly the opposite of what I was thinking she was going to say. And she did say, as for the assignment, you're all over the place. because I had no structure, you see. I hadn't been taught how to write an essay. But think how remarkable that woman was for being able to perceive that, despite my nondescript answers and despite the rough and ready format of the essay, which was all over the place. Despite all of that, she was able to look through that and trace the patterns of my mind in the sentences that she read. So no wonder then, all those years later, when I finally did a master's degree, I chose the subject of potential. I didn't realize I was doing it when I wrote the dissertation on potential, but really I was asking myself, how did she know? There was no signals. How did she spot that there was any potential in me to go in that direction? So that's really what I was asking in my master's degree when it came to potential. What gift did she have for being able to recognize that wispy, zephyr-like wind, which is all potential really is? How did she know? So all these years later, now I'm getting old myself, it's an abiding question of mine. It's like, how do you spot the potential in people? And maybe not just in education, but just on the street when you meet people. What kind of radar do you need to have in order to pick up on those vibes which point in a certain direction of somebody's aptitude, either now or in the future? So it's just an abiding subject that I have.
It's like, I think potential is and it's like certain people excel in certain things, and it's not, the wealth is not like whether I could have become a lawyer. A couple of credits where I didn't become a lawyer. I taught at universities towards the beginning and tail end of my more sort of professional career, and then I mentored and worked in international development and all of that. But
but that's the other point. That's the other point of it, Stephen, is that it's not just in having a radar for other people's potential, which you need if you're going to be a really good tutor. You need that radar, but also if in self-awareness, if you can fathom your own potential, because it can be lost on you if you're not careful, if you don't get any feedback from somebody. So then it's down to you to try and fathom your own aptitudes and follow that compass, no matter how old you are. So that question of what is potential also applies to your own self-awareness. If you're going to, in terms of self-development, if you're going to make something of yourself.
It's a word that I hate to use. And often when I use the word "but," that's just so. I needed to, another thing that I actually need to get a copy of is it's like I've got a physical dictionary, but I need a physical thesaurus. Synonyms are the word "but." So that's a horrible way of putting it. It's kind of like as an aside, or within everything that's going on right now globally, everybody's like, oh, we're in America, it's terrible. If you're anti-Trump, or we're in America, it's wonderful. If you're pro-Trump, but actually the Dems are messing everything, or this person's messing everything. We're in the UK, all like whatever's going on with Epstein or Prince Andrew or Pierre Starmer, that doesn't matter. Every country's got their shit right now. The world is changing. It's not different anywhere, etc. I see certain countries that have different political or ethical cultures that are more difficult to fathom or understand, having navigated part of the Asian and Islamic world and worked in those places. And they can be very, very difficult and or easy to understand, etc. But every country's got their shit right now. But you see, the but word, I hate it. I got to find another word for that. I want to smack myself all over the head. However, what exists in the world right now is as there has been, I think, and this is not a lefty thing or anything, there's been a certain erosion of a middle class, in terms of earning power, etc., etc., etc. And a lot of people getting wealthy. Doesn't matter who, when, left-wing people getting wealthy, right-wing people getting wealthy. It doesn't matter. They come from all sides. And what I see is as people play, so you might be working in a particular area. So, for example, there might be people that have got a YouTube show, or there might be people that, I'm a local sort of record scalper or trader, and I'm going to whatever, and then some competition comes in, or I'm a local hi-fi dealer, or I'm doing this. And then suddenly people start getting very territorial, and then they start playing games. Well, I've been around longer, and why do you have the right to do what you're doing when this is my territory? People get territorial. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It could be a virtual YouTube space, or it could be a local space.
Academics get like that as well.
Yes. And for me, that is the nastiest, evilest thing of human nature. So what I've learned as I'm working with the current person that we're trying to get some stuff going is, if I look at my skill, your skill, what do I offer? What do you offer? How do we work together? And you learn to complement. Whereas that whole team or sense of community as we used to have it has been lost. These days, people live around walls, and especially here where there's crime, there's security, there's cameras. Yeah, there's crime in lots of places that got crime. There are parts of Manchester, as you know, that are criminal ridden. People
more and more so.
And take drugs. Yeah, I mean, we've seen videos. Cape Town's no different. People think, oh God, South Africa's so different. Sure, I've lived in Cape Town, I've lived in Johannesburg, and I've lived in Washington, D.C. But all three, what do they have in common? They've all been at one stage or another the murder capital of the world. So I've lived in three murder capitals of the world. And guess what? I'm still alive. So you know what? Yeah. It's like, you go to New York, certain blocks before Clinton opened up his offices in Harlem. You didn't just go into Harlem that easily in those days. In the old days, we used to go here into the townships easier as lefties. Nowadays, it's more dangerous. There's gangsters, there's drugs, there's needles on the streets. And I recently watched a video, one on Johannesburg, and actually one on Manchester, and some, and the high street and certain things. I mean, certain cities, it's just that's the way they are. And there's you could, friends that are in London, or you could be in parts of Scotland, or you could be in Liverpool or Aberdeen, wherever. My mate, Surrey, but in the outskirts of Surrey, and parts of Surrey are rich. And then you've got this dodgy stuff happening. Junkies, drug addicts, all of that. Outskirts of Paris, same thing. It's no different.
So just to wind it down, Stephen, because I'm going to need some sleep in a little bit. But just
I'm going to have to get it.
Just to wind it down about potential. If I'm reminded that at Quarry Bank High School, Lennon was told that it was a waste of time by certain tutors, and especially his interest in music. To some degree, some of that was his own fault for larking about, and that maybe his time clock wasn't ready yet to become, to explore his potential. But nonetheless, if I'd have been a tutor at Quarrybank High School and some geezer called John Lennon passed through, and I had went through all those 5 years and I never noticed the lad's potential, I'd be banging my head against the wall by the time they were, the Beatles. But the same is almost as true for McCartney. So, and this is no disrespect to his father, but all his father could see, the pinnacle for Paul McCartney, his son, would be to go to teacher training college. That was as far as he could see. And he knew Paul McCartney had the aptitude to play guitar by now and play piano. But nonetheless, in terms of earning a living, that's the baseline for a working class family. So Jim McCartney saw that, and that's why he was reluctant to let Paul McCartney go to Hamburg. And when he came back from Hamburg without any money and no prospects, that's when his dad sent him down to the labor exchange and said, "Don't come back until you got a job." So he got a Christmas delivery job, Paul McCartney first, and then he got a job winding coil cables in a place called Massey and Coggins. Now when he started at that job, it was January 1961. So that means the Beatles had come back from Hamburg already. They'd done that. And more important, and this is what even people like Mark Lewison don't fully understand, is they did the famous Litherland Town Hall gig on, I think it was the 28th of December 1960, where they'd come back from Germany and they were billed as that band from Germany. And so Liverpudlians weren't realizing the Beatles were a homegrown band.
Sorry, in 1960. So when did the Beatles actually get together?
Well, Lennon and McCartney met in 1950.
As the Quarrymen.
Yeah, so they went as the Quarrymen, yeah. And by the time they went to Hamburg, they were the Beatles. So was
that already 1960?
Yeah, so they come back. They come back from Hamburg in 1960, and the historians like Lewison billed the Litherland Town Hall gig in December 1960 as the big turnaround gig that made everything different, and that's just not true. It got them more bookings, so it was a good gig, but the idea that it turned everything around is so demonstrably nonsense as soon as you look at Paul McCartney's career record. So after the Litherland Town Hall gig, just 2 weeks later, in January 1961, because of his dad, he starts work at Massey and Coggins winding cables.
Was that transformers?
And the senior manager there looked at his CV and found out that McCartney had 1 A-level. So straight away, the management team were pegging him as a potential future manager at Massey and Coggins. So that now was the ceiling of Paul McCartney's future. And it was only because Lennon was furious that McCartney was missing a lot of lunchtime gigs that the Beatles were getting because he was working. So McCartney could only do the evening gigs. So in the morning, you would see Paul McCartney stood at the bus stop at 7 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the bus to go into Massey and Coggins. And Lennon was a bit of a down at heel who didn't like the idea of a job anyway. So McCartney had done 1 bunk under pressure from Lennon, where he'd skipped over the wall and done a cavern lunchtime gig with the Beatles. So he'd gone AWOL from Massey and Coggins. So he did that in February 1961. Was carrying on working through Massey and Coggins, and he was missing a lot of lunchtime gigs around Liverpool with the Beatles. And Lennon gave him a phone call saying, "You either come to the cavern gig or you're not in the fucking band anymore." So he gave McCartney that ultimatum. So McCartney showed up for that Cavern lunchtime gig and was sacked from Massey and Coggins in March. So he lasted 3 months. So there's an example of where Lennon, whose potential had not been spotted by his Quarrybank tutors or the art college really, except for one art school teacher who tried to encourage him. So there was Lennon shaping McCartney's future by getting him to rebel against Massey and Coggins and follow his Beatles path. So Lennon was responsible for McCartney finally fulfilling his potential as a greater composer, in my view, than John Lennon was. But if Lennon hadn't given him that phone call, that ultimatum, I mean, who knows? You know, McCartney might have ended up a senior manager in Massey and Coggins, or going off to teacher training college like his father wanted him to. So sometimes potential is that precarious, even when we're dealing with a genius. There's no guarantees even with a genius. So there's a lot of nurturing that needs to be done. And if society is so downhill like the one we've got now, it all falls back to you yourself to cultivate your own potential somehow, to feed your mind with whatever inspires you, and have whatever conversations inspire you, and to try and tune into your own compass, and then follow your own compass and develop your potential that way. So there you go. Everything goes back to the Beatles in the end.
Oh, look, I mean, it's like amazing. I mean, I remember it might have been the end of George Borden's 24-hour stream. We got to, so we ended up on just like looking at the difference between Yoko and Linda. And it actually reminds me tonight, you know, not that I can play vinyl. I mean, I'm in the process of moving stuff around. I can barely, you know, get to stuff or whatever. But there's an album that I, you know, and I also realized I've got a first press, and I never realized it's always like we grew up around like the Beatles. I never grew up with the Blue or the White album. We had the first album that was in our house was actually Abbey Road, which is an interesting one. So, you know, I heard later Beatles before I heard newer Beatles. That's me in 1973. And I'm more enamored with the later stuff, although I'm starting to appreciate the earlier stuff through rockabilly and other stuff, you know. And I'm definitely more of a Beatles person than a Stones person overall, but there are a couple of Stones albums that I rate highly, you know. I just think that the Beatles, like, a short, succinct career was just incredible, and they went their own ways, did whatever, whatever. But there's a McCartney album that I never gave, you know, and we had a copy of Band on the Run, and I only discovered about 3-4 years ago that it was recorded in Lagos. And you know, I've always been a big Fela person, and I've got a near complete Fela Kuti collection on both either a CD and or vinyl. You know, and his album with Ginger Baker is just something else. But again, I hate that word. Okay, we've got to say the buck. Stop saying the but here. There's an album that I discovered, and I want to go back to it, and it's Ram. Beautiful album, just a beautiful, you know. And another one that I've got here, and I think it needs a clean, and it's Wings Over America.
The Ram album is an example of McCartney trying to fathom his own potential after the breakup of the Beatles, when he didn't know what direction he was going in, or whether he could make it on his own, or before he formed a band again. So you could listen to Ram as the sound of somebody foraging for their own potential. And when you get the tourists going down to Liverpool and going to Forthlin Road and being guided around the house, or going to Menlove Avenue, and they're concentrating, and they're trying to get the atmosphere of the place, you know, what are they really doing when the tourists, when they do that? What are they, you know, obviously they're trying to imagine Paul McCartney coming home from, say, art college and strumming on his guitar. Obviously they're doing that, but there's something more going on when they're so captivated. And I think it's to do with that. I think it's to do with, they know they've got where the story went, so they know to compare what he achieved with these humble beginnings. And I think it's about fathoming that mystical void between those two. You know, this working class lad and where he started, who couldn't possibly imagine where he would end up. So all those people, those tourists, stood in the living room of Forthlin Road trying to imagine Paul McCartney and John Lennon working out a song together. I think that they're unconsciously fathoming the nature of potential, like they're trying to get to it, and they're using that house as a touchstone to try and fathom the nature of potential, because it's life essence that you're really talking about there when you're talking about potential. Okay, so
incredible.
That's my last word on it, Stephen, before we wrap up.
Absolutely. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's what can I say? And yeah, I'm gonna probably go nap for about 2-3 hours.
Me too.
And yeah, get going. You know, take a bit of a nap, and I'll just get going and start sorting stuff out. And maybe I'll be back this evening with a typewriter.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
All right, Stephen, good talking to you, mate.
You too. All right. And whoever was around, Ruth Ann, thanks for big hugs too. Yeah, and look, listen, next time come and have a chat with us. You know, it's always good. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to know the crap that happened with your brother typewriter. He ain't heavy, he's my brother.
All right, stay cool, man.
Take care, Woody.
Take care.
Later. Cheers. I'm ending the stream now. Bye.